GT3, which are the undoing of myself and many others.
And this circuit has been the host of the French Grand Prix since 1970. It was created by Paul Ricard, who is the man who made a fortune from pastis in the 1950s and 60s. Decided he wanted a race circuit and created one. And down the back straight, that long Mistral straight, named after the hot wind that blows over here from North Africa, leading into the potentially flat-out right-hander at Senior, that's going to be absolutely the scene of an awful lot of action, because these cars will draft really well. And keeping your momentum onto that straight is maybe not the end of it. It's a bit like an old Monza slipstreamer. A lot of overtaking, though, happens after the double right-handed loop on the right-hand side of the screen. The track is clockwise. After the double droite de Beausset, you can turn into the first right there and just slide out wide and ease your opponent out on the outside. And then the final little hairpin onto the straight as well. That can be the scene of an awful lot of late braking attempts to get past. So it's not a one-trick pony, this track. The first chicane is good for passing. The little S's as you come down to the beginning of the Mistral straight are good for passing. And then after catching your teammates or your rivals down the Mistral straight, you can make plenty of overtaking opportunities for yourself heading into Senior or possibly long before. The only slight problem with the straight that is that long, Paul, is that, like making a move too early up the Kemmel Straight at Spa, if you do go too early here, then they'll just tow right back past you. So you've got to be a bit savvy of when you show your hand.
Well, yes, we found that very much at Monza as well, where realistically getting out in front was very difficult. It was more like pack racing in something like NASCAR or the Indy 500, as we saw last weekend. Getting out ahead early is only good if you can escape the tow, and the tow isn't super powerful in these little GT4 cars. It's a bit worse than some of the other cars, but over a straight the length of the Mistral, which I believe the architect just sort of copied and pasted the designs for the airport that runs parallel to the circuit. You're going to get in real trouble there if you make that move too early, Martin.
Absolutely right. Well, here is a view of the beautiful little Alpine A110, of course, resurrecting a great sports car name, which was big in rallying and then in circuit racing in the 1960s through the 70s. Alpine made their name from tuning Renaults and then made their own space frame chassis with Renault motive power, engines from the Renault 8 Gordini, particularly in the original A110. And this is a great looking little car and a very highly regarded road car. And of course, the GT4 is not that far away from the road car spec, and it is the base level of getting into GT racing. As you said, the GT3 cars, bigger wings, more power and all of that. But this is a car that will reward a driver who's got a fine touch, and a bit of thinking ahead, Chris, is always going to work well.
Yeah, we saw through Monza and Spa just how much the car was moving around under the drivers. Again, as you said, Martin, you don't really see that with the GT3s, which are much more planted thanks to the pretty comprehensive these days aero package they have. But the GT4s are very much stripped down back to basics, much more like the road car, with a pair of slicks, really.
Well, it makes it sound an awful lot easier to prepare a GT4 car than it really is. Yeah, you're absolutely right, though. I mean, the basis is far less convoluted than a GT3 car. However, they do take a lot of building and a lot of preparation and maintenance in real life. Of course, for the sim racers, it's another opportunity to try their hand at something different. So the first point is you've got to qualify, and you don't really get many shots of this. A 5-minute qualifying session at Spa-Francorchamps, if you got 2 laps in, you're some kind of sleight of hand magician. You might get a couple here, but again, that's the first pressure, isn't it? If you qualify badly in the teens or the 20s, then the top 8 seems a long way away. So our championship leaders have to really go out and be very strong from the off. But the problem is, if you really push too hard and make a mistake, then that might be your one shot gone.
Absolutely. And that's very much what we saw to some of the main protagonists at Monza and Spa last week. And we're going to take a look at the highlights of Monza right now.
The cars line up on 2x2 formation. They're looking at the starting gantry for the lights to go green and the race to start off. Green flag has been waved. A great start for Nikolai Hosnik immediately in the slipstream behind. He's got a field of Alpine A110s behind him, trying to find a way past, all looking for a little bit of real estate down into the chicane for the very first time. Defensive in second position is Hosnik. Round the outside, can he make it on the brakes? No, he cannot. A bunch of cars in the background making sure they're not making contact. And Chris, that's a very clean opening few corners from this field. Yep, some fantastic racing in the opening few corners. The car in the background just spearing off onto the gravel trap as Nikolai remains in the race lead. Look at this now. We've got 1, 2, 3 cars going sideways. Contact with the barrier in the background. Shows his nose nice and early. Telegraphs the move to Jardier. Gets late on the brakes as well. Jardier decides not to defend the line. And Nikolai, a little bit of contact in the middle of the corner. Can they both keep it on the grey stuff? Yes, they can. Jardier side by side for the race lead. Nikolai, car number 3, Jardier, car number 4, and Jean Blanc in the background seeing what he can pick up from this, but Jardier leads again. Fantastic stuff. Jardier knows he's had to work hard for that victory. And a second position. Nikolai not quite enough to make the overtake at the very end, rounds out the podium. Massoud in 4th place. Sky in 5th position. And Berger in 6th place. What a fabulous, absolutely fabulous opening race of the Alpine Esports Series. The Alpine Esports Series Race 2 from Monza is go. Schill gets a poor start. We've got Jules Sky on the outside trying to keep on the forward momentum in the run to the chicane. They're 3 cars wide, a little bit further back. Massoud in no man's land in 3rd position. We see Schill hard on the brakes into the chicane. Sky around the outside holds the car with him in the grey car, takes the race lead. Jules Sky takes the race lead. Gregor Schill drops down into 2nd position. That is job done for Nikolai now, although the car's going back at him again. Jean Blanc running slowly.
Yeah, Jean Blanc losing multiple positions there. That is all 4 fighting for P2. This is Jean Blanc, Sky, Jardier and Burgess who joined the back of that pack. I could not tell you who is going to come out on top here.
The right direction. Dimitrov joins into that fight as well. See if he can take some advantage. But that is contact for 4th and 5th position. Dimitrov now in the fight as well. Burgess and Jean Blanc side by side after that little bit of contact into the chicane. Will they keep it clean on the run down into the 2nd chicane? Dimitrov trying to find a way past these 2 Alpines, taking up the entirety of the circuit. And that was more drama than it needs to be. And it still carries on, Chris.
The final dying embers of this fight for 2nd place. Looking at Gregor Schill, who looks very pleased with himself. Job well done. He maintained composition through all of those early battles and took opportunity when it mattered the absolute most and broke from the pack. Took a commanding win here from Sky behind.
Well, Chris, 2 different winners from the 2 races. First blood to Jardier, and then finally Gregor Schill got it together in race 2. That first race, he can't afford any more of those, and Jardier needs to try and find that early season form again, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think these are 2 of the main protagonists we're going to be looking at tonight. Delivering early, in Gregor Schill's case, in the first race, he had a nightmare, as you referenced, and Jardier having a result perhaps taken from him in the 2nd round by catching lap traffic and it all going very badly for him. So 2 people that will be looking to improve on their form going forward. And of course, Isaac Gillison taking, well, both wins in the AM races.
Yeah, he's been very impressive so far, hasn't he? And perhaps no surprise given his track record. So that was Monza. And one of the great delights of sim racing, esports, is that you can go somewhere completely different without having to leave your seat. So Monza doubleheader and then straight on to Spa-Francorchamps. And after the glories of the Autodromo Nazionale, bar predictably enough, was moist.
gantry. The green flag has been waved. The cars careen down into the Eau Rouge, going uphill to the left, then to the right, over the brow of the hill, through the top of Radion. Everybody line astern. Can they all make it through? A couple of cars running wide, taking to the escape road. Everybody survives. Everybody pointing in the right direction. The spray kicking up from the circuit as the rain continues to fall in Belgium, and we have got Pithet retaining pole position, retaining the race lead as pretty much everyone goes down into Le Cobb side by side. Carrying the number one, loses it at the top of Radion, manages to keep the car in the straight line, goes back down the pit exit. There's two cars stationary at the top of the hill. A damaged car running slowly. Gregor Schill now is the meat in an Alpine sandwich, 3 wide on the run down the back straight into Le Cobb. Can Gregor Schill retain this position? No, it looks like a lot of drama that these drivers have to contend with. They've got to experiment with the racing lines, trying to find grip out on the circuit. We've seen somebody spin further down the running order, just avoids being collected by the chasing.
A dominant victory. He's about to lap the last of the runners. We've got Kutnik off at the bus stop just ahead. There's yellow flags. That's what that's being waved for. I think he's just abandoned the car on the exit there, so nothing to worry about. But a commanding win for Pithet. There's not a lot more to say than that. Burgess actually did a good job of reeling in that gap. He had a 4.5 second lead over Jardier at one point. As we see Isaac Gillison bring it home in 5th. He was running in 4th a minute ago, so in 6th a minute ago. So I'm not sure if something's happened ahead there. I think no, that was just Airbridge. We saw a lap down, just getting out of the way.
Go side by side. This is the closest the cars will get without touching before the green flag waves, which it does. Pithet tries to convert that pole position into an early lead. Up Eau Rouge, we see Bonjour getting interested in second place. Falls back in, we see a car sideways. Further down, cause contact at the top of Radion. Many cars involved. There's disaster further down the field. There are Alpine spread all across the tarmac. Several cars involved, and it's all from Nicholas Airbrush involved in there as well. Jardier, 5th position as a car spread and fan out on the run down into Le Cobb for the first time in this final 25-minute feature race. Jardier, 4th position. Pithet retaining the race lead. Bonjour in 2nd. Nicolai in 3rd. Clean and tidy at the front of the field, but absolute chaos, Chris, further down the order. In the middle of Schill and Burgess. Now Sky does exactly the same to Jardier that he did earlier on to Nicolai, but Jardier keeps the car pointed in the right direction. Sky is the big loser in that move as well as contact.
For other protagonists from earlier race, we've got Jean Blanc, who's been in the thick of it, once again in the thick of it on the run down to the bus stop. Is that taking Gillison? Yes, he has got the place back from Gillison there, who drops down to 7th position. Good running.
The fight for 6th position is as intense as it has been at any stage in this race. Bonjour, nearly 3 seconds. We're looking at him now at the head of the road. Is walking this one home to race victory.
Yeah, Pithet there just during the last lap just backed out of it, realised the job was done. Bonjour may not have looked like the quicker of the two, but he did not put a foot wrong at all at any point in proceedings, and takes a well-deserved victory from Pithet.
So 4 races in, 4 different winners, and Chris, consistency as always is the big key here. Getting points is what makes you the champion at the end, not a one-off win, and that's what we're seeing from our standings, isn't it?
Yeah, our Pro Championship leader, Corentin Burgess, is at the top of the table with 28 points by virtue of 3 podiums. No wins so far, but as you said, we had 4 different winners, and just getting up into those high points paying positions has paid off so far, but, well, who knows what's going to happen this evening.
And Spa was good for him and for Fabien Pithet, for Florent Bonjour as well. They all kind of gained ground. And in the real world and in the sim world, you have circuits that are your favorites and you do better at, or that you do better at and are your favorites. I wonder how many call the circuit Paul Ricard their favorite. Isaac Gillison again on the top of the leaderboard in the AM standings, and with 25 points on offer, realistically, unless there is some sort of exclusion, he only has one rival, Love 46. So, and Bunatix can't join us today either, so even were he in contention, that would have been ruled out as well. So it is a 2-horse race, And Isaac Gillison is going to take some catching, isn't he? I mean, he's been very impressive so far in the top 10 and in the overall top 8 on every occasion so far.
Yep, he had a clean sweep of all 4 races, taking away the maximum points. So as we move over to qualifying in progress, we're seeing the cars going out for the first time for night qualifying at Paul Ricard.
Well, you see, now that's going to be entertaining as well. Look at the Mistral straight. When you saw our graphic at the beginning, it showed one of the chicanes that it is possible to use on the Mistral. We're not trifling with any old chicanes this time. We are just using the full Mistral straight. So getting it right into senior, the fast right-hander at the end, is going to be very tricky. Virage du Pont here, the right-hander that starts the lap. We ride on board with Victor Nicolai. So let's take a look here. We tend to meander down towards the right-hand side of the pit wall. The next chicane, the first couple of corners, starts with a left and then a right. And he's using, right out to the cones there, using all the available track over the brow into the right-handed second element. And that's often a scene of Monza first corner shenanigans, with cars going left, right and centre, particularly to the right, cutting the whole chicane. And down here as well, on the opening lap, you will see contact.
Yeah, I can certainly attest to that. I think every race I've ever been in Assetto Corsa and Paul Ricard has had first lap contact somewhere around me. Victor Nicolai being able to take a lot of curb in this Alpine, not having to use as much of the track as maybe the GT3s. They're going onto the Mistral straight, obviously not joining it quite as fast as the faster GT3 cars, but this is going to be a long run down to senior corner, and it would be lovely to see an onboard at senior for the first time, just to see how this little Alpine A110 handles one of the most fearsome corners on the calendar, I would say, Martin.
It absolutely is, and it's one that has always been, you know, a real heart in the mouth. It's one that requires the Jesus pedal, which is an old front-engined IndyCar thing. You used to put a block of wood on the left-hand side that the driver braced his foot on, and you pushed then with both legs hard to the firewall while shouting the name of the Almighty, hence its name. And that was to stop you lifting, and that's the basic premise there. If you can carry maximum speed through senior, then suddenly you carry a lot more distance away from your rivals behind. Down into the final couple of corners, this left just goes on forever and ever, and then suddenly standing on the brakes, checking up, hard on your right, through the Virage du Pont, and let's see what he's got. He will get another run, as most of them should.
Not a bad time at all. The 2:04 flat. I saw a couple just sneak into the 2:03 3s in the free practice session. I'm not sure whether the track conditions are the same. Interestingly, Victor Nicolai not feeling the need to use every inch of the track through Beausset or coming into Virage du Pont, as we often see with the GT3s, getting really wide over the curbs. Maybe not feeling the need. As I said earlier, this is a car that the momentum through the corner, as we see Keith Stewart pretty much taking the same line there. Keith is replacing Daniele Ricciardone in the number 17 car. He didn't feature in the original rounds at Monza.
Yeah, Daniele Ricciardone, Thomas Cheval and Redouane Massoud. Unfortunately, Massoud had issues and couldn't be here. Yvonne Vanderburgh, one of our AMs. All the AMs will be shown on the timing pylon on the right-hand side with those red backgrounds to the number. So she has completed her lap, and there is Jardier, live from the Czech Republic.
Yeah, very much a crowd favourite there. Hasn't got a lap time in at this stage, has only got time for one lap, is obviously chatting away to his stream, happy as ever. You've got plenty of time to get confused and distracted by things down the Mistral in this car, thankfully, but be interesting to see what he can pull out of the bag.
Yeah, only 23 cars have set a time at the moment, and the time has run out, so no mistakes allowed now. And there he is.
Yeah, Victor Nicolai still in first place, but Isaac Gillison, our AM driver, just half a tenth, not even half a tenth, 3/1000th of a second behind.
That's impressive.
We mooted before the broadcast that Isaac was getting closer to the front of the pack, and well, the proof is in the pudding.
Absolutely right. So the checker flag is out, and a number of drivers have taken it already. What about Jardier? Neat and tidy out the final corner. It's actually quite a long run to the line. And he comes across in third. All right, that'll do. And in fact, there's been a couple of changes. Vanko Dimitrov, the Bulgarian driver, up to second fastest, ahead of Jardier in third.
Right at the top there, we have Gregor Schill, who was our winner for the race 2 in Monza, is a championship protagonist and was looking to perhaps redress the balance after a messy couple of rounds in Spa. So starting as he means to go on, Martin.
Yeah, and that's a big lap as well. 2:03.828, 2:03.894 for the second fastest man. So Vanko Dimitrov will be on the outside of the front row with Gregor Schill on pole for the sprint race. Jardier will line up third ahead of the number 8 car, Florian Bonjour, another of our championship contenders. And Bonjour, the man who has got all the consistency on his side so far. Winner last time out, just 1 point off the championship lead, held by Corentin Berge. And Corentin will start in 7th place. And
yeah, Victor Nicolai, we have to feel for him, dropping 5 positions down the order from 1st to 5th, 4 positions in the dying moments of qualifying there. He had to imagine he was in a good chance there, as did Jardier when he crossed the line, but things changed thick and fast, especially when, well, we're essentially doing one lap qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely was. Well, some of them deliberately, some of them not quite so much. But again, our top AM, Isaac, is in 6th position. So Isaac Gillison with a win in all of the races so far for the AMs, and top 5th, top 5 overall, his best result so far from the first race in Spa. So he's had a pretty good qualifying as well. But again, right at the end, if you're going to do one lap, make sure that the one lap gets the job done, and our pole man did. So a great opportunity. We've seen quite a lot of success from pole position, and here you can control the corner as long as you make a good start. And Chris, we heard from our pole man at Monza, Gregor, the same guy, that he just fluffed the start completely, didn't he, in that first race, and just let them all get to him.
Yeah, he had a bad qualifying and then dropped multiple positions down the order, and then just, for want of a better word, got mugged. This is a big pack of, they're quite small cars by racing car standards, especially these days, but 4 or 5 into 1 still doesn't go.
Yes, and if you're on pole, there's only 29 lunatics behind you, all looking for the same bit of tarmac. So, they catch up pretty quickly. All right, well, that's our qualifying grid set. No points for qualifying, so it doesn't change the overall championship standing. But it does give us, again, perhaps, let's have a quick look at the sheet. Who didn't qualify well? Where did Fabien Piffet qualify? He didn't have a good run, did he? So he is way down the order. Why am I not seeing him?
I'm also not seeing him on the live timing. So Fabien Jeanblanc as well, who factored in all of our races up the front end. Perhaps didn't string the results together that he would have liked. Qualifying down in 21st, he was running in the top 5 for many of the races, both of the Monza races, certainly last time out. So an absolute terror for him.
Well, if you're going to be right at the back of a pack, you want to be right at the back of the pack on a long slipstreamer like the Mistral Straight. I mean, that is his opportunity, isn't it? Like small capacity motorcycle racing, you want to hop along the queue of cars. You know, and if you get a good run onto the Mistral, you might pick up 3 or 4 places. Although, of course, the guys behind will be in your tow as well, so you might help them. Well, there is our grid, with Gregor Schill on pole position and Vanko Dimitrov alongside him. Jardier lining up in 3rd. So it could be very interesting. Florian Bonjour as well, couple of podium finishes, including victory in the second of our races at Spa. He was top 6 in both races in Monza, third and then first at Spa. Now, is this a track that he likes or not? Obviously, with it being a French brand, Alpine, there is a fairly significant French presence in the field, Chris. So you would assume, like lots of Brits probably race lots of British tracks and lots of Germans probably race lots of German tracks when they're starting out, that quite a few of our French drivers know this track well and like it. But whether they've raced it very frequently without the chicane, which is very commonly used, at least one on that back straight, is another question.
Well, of course, the good thing about using the layout without the chicane is the only thing you have to learn is to not brake in the middle of the Mistral. It's not quite the same as, say, something like the Donington National Circuit, where the chicane goes in the opposite direction. This is very much just remember to keep your foot to the floor. I'm sure they'll be fine, Martin.
Yeah, and set the timer so that when you pop out of the booth for a cup of tea, that you're back in before you get to senior. It is going to be very entertaining, I think, watching, trying to pick out, particularly in the darkness with the headlights on, as it gets a little lighter. That will give us a bit more to watch. Down amongst our, there's row 10 of the grid. We then go down to row 13. Row 12 rather, before we find our second AM driver. So it's a long way that Isaac Gillison is out front, and I think unless he has an utter disaster, then he has got a very, very strong chance of tying this up, and he might put it out of harm's reach actually in this sprint race.
We should explain for the viewers that the Pro and Am categories are taken in from the game, from the real world GT World Challenge, from which these cars are taken, and the European GT4 series, I should say. But these rankings aren't really as to whether these are professional or amateur sim racers. In this case, our pros are esports guys. They are professional sim racers, but our AMs are invited dignitaries, if you will, influencers, as much as we all love that word. I know I love being called it, and other personalities within the sim racing world. So while they're not necessarily full-time racing drivers, they are very familiar with sim racing.
I love the phrase they use, actually, friends of Alpine, which is all you need to know. That's an excellent way of summing it up. Well, the field is ready to be dispatched just above the bottom right-hand side. You can see that they're lined up, ready to head into the Virage du Pont, the hairpin that ends the lap. And Gregor Schill on pole position. So you're looking at the blue car with Dimitrov in the dark grey behind. And then Jardier, third, car number 4. So 1, 10, 4 and 8, Florian Bonjour. That's rows 1 and 2 of the grid. Victor Nicolai in 5th position, starting car number 3, and then Isaac Gillison. And again, you don't see any difference on the number on the door of the car, but you will see on the timing pylon. So it's going to be...
a couple of interesting things to pick up on here. One, we are using the late start positions. They're not getting a full warm-up lap. They're only getting the 2 corners, 1.5 as it happens. And because GT4 cars don't have tyre blankets, they are going to have no time to get any heat into the tyres and brakes, and the track is only a fast grip level, so this first lap is going to be pretty slippery by any measurable standard.
Tom Brower there, looking to get on with it as he lines up in 30th place on our grid. Oh, a little slow getting away, Jardier. However, it looks like he is moving. We're rolling down to the start, and as you said exactly, Chris, into the final hairpin. And Gregor Schill, with the blue Alpine colours on his Alpine A110, will be the man who sets the pace for the field. On board with Vanko Dimitrov alongside. And it should get bright pretty quickly here, 5:05 on the Côte d'Azur. Green, 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 we are racing. And Dimitrov getting a good run on the outside. Gregor Schill with the blue nose just in front. He's half a length in front. He covers off Dimitrov and takes the lead into the first corner. 2 wide, 3 wide behind. I can't believe no one took to the escape road. They really are very well behaved. And Dimitrov on the outside trying to convert that onto an inside run. but he's under pressure. Jardier goes through for second, and Bonjour, Chris, is right behind as they go 3 wide, and we haven't even got to the straight.
Yeah, as you say, all extremely well behaved. And as I say that, the commentator's curse is immediately deployed as 2 cars in the middle of the pack make light contact, but everyone is still facing the correct direction. As we're going 3 or 4 wide, taking to the escape road, onto the Mistral, cars absolutely everywhere. This is what we saw at Monza. And it's before we've even got into the slipstream and all the cars are pulled back closer together.
The battle between Schill and Jardier, they're 5 points apart. Jardier third in the standings, has a 5-point advantage over Gregor Schill, the man who leads from pole. But if he finishes in front of him, he'll only take a couple of those back. So they now have to work all the way through to the end of our main race to try and figure out who's going where. 56, that is Isaac Gillison. He is in 5th position. Just a little gap to Nikolai ahead of him, and he's under real pressure from Florian Bonjour. Bonjour, the winner of our second race in Spa-Francorchamps, looking to keep that momentum alive. He is second in the championship, just 1 point off leader Corentin Berge, and Berge is in 8th place, scoring only 1 point at the moment. So 2 minutes run, we're almost at the end of our first lap, but Chris, I don't think anybody is going to particularly worry where they are in a little group until the final lap, because if you move too soon, you're just as likely to lose your position as gain one back.
Very much so. We didn't really get a good sense of quite what the pack tow down the Mistral is going to be like, as you see multiple cars 3 wide into turn 1. We saw huge packs of cars going through senior, somehow all making it through in one piece, 3 or 4 wide on the entry there, which requires a lot of bravery. We have a spinner in the background as well. But Isaac Gillison actually looking to make some moves forward here, looking to take 4th place from Victor Nikolai. Not a bad place to do it, but then you've got to defend the position all the way down the Mistral.
Yeah, Nikolai had a great start to the season in Monza, pole and 3rd place in the sprint race, but it's sort of all come undone since then. The wheels have fallen off the wagon a little bit. However, the Romanian driver currently in 3rd. There's Isaac Gillison. And you see what I mean about towing somebody else along. So he's got Florian Bonjour in his slipstream. Bonjour now is trying to decide which way he's going. Our lead duo are already 3 seconds clear of this battle, separated by about 2 car lengths. There they are, already out of senior, into senior, up to 3rd place on the last lap has gone Patrick Batty. So he had a very good lap, Paul Batty rather, had a very good lap. Moved himself up to 3rd. Isaac Gillison up to 4th place.
Nightmare of a night for nightmare of a lap for Victor Nikolai, losing multiple places there throughout those first couple of corners as Bonjour dives up the inside in a very late move on the inside of Isaac Gillison. Does he get the move done? He's got the track against him now, but will be on the inside for the Virage de Tours.
Yeah, he left it a little late. If he'd made that move into Beausset, then he would have had a chance, because you get 2 right-handers. Didn't go by Gillison, and he's left himself open to attack from our points leader, car number 6. Corentin Berge is right there. There is the number 8 car of Florian Bonjour. That is our top 2 then. Bonjour ahead of Berge. Berge has a 1-point lead. Berge pulls out, drops back in again. He's in 6th position. Right
Florian Bonjour has a drive-through penalty. I'm just going to check the steward's decision to find out why that is. That's not on the list so far.
Nikolai loses ground and Bonjour gets a drive-through. They may be unrelated, they may not. And Bonjour has lost a spot. He's run out wide. Berge has gone by him. And Nikolai is right by, that is Nikolai, number 3 car, right behind the silver car. And again, Berge runs all over the curbs. That was Bonjour running all over the curb, so he loses ground to Nikolai here as well. Nikolai gets along the inside, becomes the outside, but he's got the tow. And Paul and you were talking before Monza about how it was going to be a sort of NASCAR pack race. Well, this even more so. Hung out to dry, I think, may have been Nikolai's problem on the last lap, just being on his own when everybody else slipstreamed the guy who was racing him. 3 wide into senior. Is that going to work well? Oh, not really. And unfortunately, in the barriers, Victor Nicolai, he will not perhaps get to serve his drive-through.
That drive-through, as you saw from Florian Bonjour, was for missing his braking point and taking out the number 10 car, which is Dimitrov. As we saw, multiple cars getting into trouble. That was Victor Nicolai spearing off into the barrier, unfortunately, around the outside of scene.
And I wonder, we might need to look at that again. Was that Florian Bonjour that hit him? Or was it Mikel? I'm not sure. It was one of the 2 cars.
I believe it was, yeah.
I have a feeling it might have been as well. Does look as though Bonjour is actually struggling for grip or brakes or something.
Well, the track grip. The track grip level has now progressed over to optimum, so as Bonjour drops in to serve his drive-through penalty in this 15-minute race, that's pretty much game over for him.
Yeah, watching car number 11. This is Paul Batty, the 19-year-old from France. He's been in the points in every race so far. So again, that's the sort of consistency you need. Let's take a look here.
This is the incident that would... This is car number 53 kerning into car 23, causing a spin, as you can see, and that resulted in a drive-through for car number 53.
You're going to make me say Lubov Oryetskovskaya, aren't you?
I was, because I was on the wrong page in my spreadsheet, Martin.
That's quite all right. I can say that. I've had a couple of runs at it. Meanwhile, Corentin Berge, French 24-year-old, 2nd place and 3rd place in the 2 races at Spa, really put him back firmly into contention. He's had a 5th, a 4th, a 3rd and a 2nd so far. So are we looking at him continuing that top 5 run? Right now we are. He's got by Isaac Gillison. No, he hasn't. Gillison has gone clear, so he's battling with Mazur, in fact. So that is.
It's hard to take your eyes off of this. It's hard to take your eyes off of this pack at the moment, as we see. Was that Dimitrov in the background spearing off?
Dimitrov that shot off in the background, yes. Banko Dimitrov, and there, real trouble for Sam Long. And who with? Where was he? Was that Oliver Seitz?
I think it was the number 14 car, wasn't it? Oliver Seitz, one of them with the rejoin. It came to that late, so it's tough to tell exactly what went on there. But as I was saying, this pack fighting for 5th place is very much where it's at. Most of the cars, well, a tenth or 2 apart. One of them 0 tenths apart, the last timing beacon. But even at the front, Gregor Schill's lead, we haven't seen him since turn 1, but his lead's only a scant 4 tenths of a second.
Yeah, we may not see them until the last lap. Schill and Jardier battling for the lead of the race and for supremacy in the points. And I think Jardier will be possibly having a look to see where he reckons his rival is going to be weakest. And that is one of the advantages of following, not just the slipstream that allows you to maybe just use a fewer revs and allows you to think a little bit, but it also gives you a chance, if you push under braking, to see where he's going to go and what he does. Here's Thea, and she is currently running just outside the top 20, 21st spot.
Yeah, 4th place in class for Thea, experienced sim racer and YouTuber, having a bit of pack racing fun in the Alpine today. So we are thick and fast. 5 minutes left in the race, 2/3 of it gone. You were saying that Jardier sizing up Gregor Schill, having a look, finding out where he's weak, but you've only got 5 or 6 laps to work it out, Martin.
You have. Fabien Piffet, you can see down there, 29th place, a lap back plus a 5-second penalty. I'm guessing he's not making the top 8 in the final 5 minutes of this race, so no points for him. He was 4th, tied with Jardier, so he now will drops basically a 10 points, so almost totally out of contention. And Corentin Berge, our championship leader, in 5th place at the moment. That is 4 points he will add to his 28. So suddenly Jardier and Schill will close enormously. Schill a further 5 points back. He was 13 behind Corentin Berge at the start. It is possible that at the end of these 2 races Gregor Schill may be the champion. I think it's slightly longer odds, though, than he would like.
Yeah, but if you had to take sides before this race and pick who you wanted to perform in this quick little sprint race to keep the championship interesting going into the final round, which we're going to see in a little over 20 minutes' time, then I think this is the order I would pick, Martin.
Of course, their car numbers are the order in which they qualified. Their fast lap shoots, attempts to get into the series. And so Gregor Schill was the man who managed to wring the most out of this. Right behind him now, though, is Jardier. So this is a battle between the German and the Czech. And this is potentially, if Jardier gets his nose in front here, then that could be the difference between being able to win the championship for Gregor Schill and not being able to win the championship. An awful lot can still happen, not just in this little battle, but in our 25-minute main race as well, which comes up shortly after the finish of this one. So you're on board with Jardier on your right-hand side. Here we come, we're in the tow, slipstreaming up to Senior, all the road and more.
Yeah, he seemed to...
the inside curb though, does he? But they're using a lot on the outrun.
He seemed to run out of power very early on, and that slipstream just didn't happen for him. Maybe he's got a little bit of front end damage, which is just harming the top speed. We didn't see any contact, but certainly Gregor Schill able to protect his 3.5-tenth lead. Lost about a tenth over the entirety of the Mistral. Not a lot at all. But Jardier looking. The front end of that car looking very aggressive, getting it turned in better than Schill at the moment, and he's probably going to get 2 laps to do this. They're going to get back across the line before the 2-minute 5 or so mark. In fact, they're beating their qualifying times now. Now the track has improved. Last lap for both Jardier and Gregor Schill was 2:03.8, so very fast stuff.
Yeah, very quick indeed. So Gregor Schill leads on to the penultimate lap. Certainly race control haven't said it is the last lap, so we assume that is the way it's going to be. If Jardier has got a better nose on the car, then double droite de Beausset, that's where you make the move. That's where you need the front end, in that long double right-hander that follows Senior. So now you just sit behind, you try not to overheat your brakes, try not to allow him to fool you into anything that breaks the toe. It is these two for the win. There's Isaac Gillison in 3rd position. So Gregor Schill, well, he knows the man in the mirror is his biggest threat, and actually these two may be boiling the championship down between the two of them now. Breathe. That's like the old style Le Mans before the chicanes came in. Stretch your legs, roll your shoulders, sit and breathe in and out for about a minute at 230 odd miles an hour. They're not doing the same speed here, but you saw the relief. Now he'll be hunching up again, because here comes Jardier. He's going to show his nose here. He's not going to try and move into Senior. There's Jardier on the right-hand side, talking to his Twitch stream. I think here is where he was hoping to make a move, and he comes down deep on the inside to first the 2 right-handers, piling the pressure on Gregor Schill. Is that a dress rehearsal, or is he going to try and fool him into thinking the move is coming there? Runs out very wide indeed. Chris, that might be his bolt shot a little bit there.
Yeah, we saw Schill's 0.5 of a second advantage that he was holding just evaporate down Mistral this time. So perhaps we saw a mistake from Jardier coming onto Mistral last time around. He did everything he needed to do, Jardier, there through Beausset, as you say, just kept the car tight. He was able to maintain a level of grip that Schill just couldn't manage. We are coming on to the final lap now, and Gregor Schill's just got to do exactly what he did again. And Jardier's got to do exactly what he did, but without the little mistake.
Yeah, Jardier will be right up behind him into the first corner. And just making sure that Schill has, even on the Mistral, has no time to relax. Isaac Gillison still in 3rd. And then in 4th position is our championship leader. So Corentin Berge really helping himself now. He's moved up from 5th to 4th, ahead of Mazur. So Michael Mazur has lost a spot. And up to 6th, Stepan Kutnik really pulled himself up into that lead group in that 5th place down battle, but he's picked up a 5-second penalty, so he will finish behind Alex Doricott, who's currently 7th, as they come out onto the straight. Gregor Schill just once risking full track limits there by going way out wide. If he'd done that a couple of times earlier on, I think he probably picked up a penalty, but here comes Jardier. Is he close enough? Toe continues to reel him in. Schill knows he's there, he's defending. And Jardier having to send it out wide. But that may set him up for the cutback underneath. That's what Schill knows is the danger. He's going to try and defend the inside here into Double Droit de Beausset. But Jardier is right there, can't get it done. He's just losing a little too much at the front. Gregor Schill, Chris may hang on to this. 3 more corners.
Yeah, he had an awful spat of understeer through the second part of Beausset, and somehow Jardier wasn't there to pick up the pieces. But as you say, it's going to take a hero's move now in the last 2 corners, throwing it up the inside into Virage du Pont, but I don't think Jardier is that kind of driver. Trying not to deploy the commentator's curse there, Martin.
And he needs the points. Win it or bin it isn't an option now. There's only 1 race after this, so he will take the points. And Schill will close a little on Jardier. Second win of the season for Gregor Schill. He was our main race winner in Monza, and he wins the sprint race here ahead of Jardier and Isaac Gillison in 3rd place, our top AM driver. Corentin Berge, really important. He gets 3rd placed points, doesn't he, Chris? Because Gillison is not scoring overall points. He is in 3rd at the line, but Berge will get that 6-point score, so that makes him 34, and Jardier goes from 20, it's 10-8, isn't it? So he goes to 28, so he's 6 behind, and Gregor Schill goes from 15 to 25, so he will be more behind. Now, that's my mental arithmetic on air. You just heard it falling over itself.
It's a beautiful thing. Corentin Berge, as you say, did a fantastic job there. Everyone around him seemed to lose their heads. He kept his cool and managed to bring the car home in 3rd place in the point standings, 4th place overall in the race, which leaves him very much still in contention. That's his fourth podium in this this series of 5 races so far. So great job.
And that's really impressive. You know, that's where it all comes from, isn't it? Consistency is absolutely everything. So he's had a 5th, a 4th, a 2nd, and now 2 consecutive 3rd place finishes. And if he does that again, if he's on the podium again, then he will be our champion, won't he? I'm not sure that anybody else can overhaul him if he's in the top 3. So qualifying for the main race is going to be absolutely lay it all on the table.
Well, the good news for our drivers is they get 10 minutes this time around, so 3 or 4 laps. Time to maybe try a couple of things rather than just throw it all on the line. I do like this 1-lap qualifying and quick sprint race format, particularly for this group of drivers who've only been together for a short time. It keeps the racing interesting. It keeps it impactful. It means we do get a bit of a mix-up. And I have to say, that was a pretty eventful race, Martin.
It was, yeah, good entertaining stuff. And as ever, you know, Paul Ricard, especially with the full Mistral, it's a real game of snakes and ladders. And if you make a mistake, then you find the snake. And if you are good in the air, then you can climb a lot of places. And we saw that, didn't we, from a couple of drivers who really made their way very quickly up the order from not wildly impressive qualifying positions. But our top 2, those are the ones that, again, with Corentin Berge, it's starting to boil down into a 3-horse race with Berge leading. Jardier will be, I think, his closest rival, and Gregor Schill may well be only 4th in the points, I think, if my subtraction, addition and logarithm tables are correct, which they usually aren't. But we'll wait until we see the official margin. But the way that those guys qualified and the way that they then, the top 2, left everybody else is impressive. Of course, you can win by 25 seconds. You don't get any more points. And that is where the bonus lay for Corentin Berge, is that he might have been 10 seconds back, but he still got points for 3rd. And that is absolutely critical for him.
Yeah, and that has been the way he seems to have approached all of this. We've had multiple different winners and a lot of action up the front, and he has always been there. And with another round to go at Paul Ricard, they get a slightly longer race next time out as well. A lot more to play for. What was interesting to me towards the end there is we saw Gregor Schill suffering with understeer, particularly compared to Jardier, who had a pretty tidy front end on that Alpine. But Gregor Schill multiple times understeering, under pressure. So it seems unlikely that he was suffering with tire deg at that particular stage of the race, but might be a setup thing. And we have Gregor Schill now, the winner of that race, coming in for an interview.
Hello.
Hello, Gregor. That is much more like it. After your one win at Monza and 3 other more eventful races in the previous round, was that a case of starting as you mean to go on?
Yeah. I mean, basically 3 out of 4 races, in the last when we drove like the first few races there, it was just unlucky. I got taken out and I could do nothing about it. So at least I got the win at Monza, which helps me some sort to still be in this chase for the win or like top 3. And yeah, then today, like literally I had no time to practice. I was like practicing with them 6 also on Paul Ricard for the SRO race, then went jogging, and 20 minutes before basically the race start or quali start, I was driving first time the car around here. So I wasn't expecting that, I have to say, but I had a mega battle with Jardier. It was so clean in the race. It was just like till the last corner, we just fought side by side, so clean. It was just amazing. And let's see what the main race will bring.
You're going to make some changes to the car. Were you happy with the handling, the balance at the end? It looked like you were struggling a little bit more with understeer, maybe.
It was actually the opposite. I struggled with oversteer as the tire wear down. I'm not sure why it was the case. I actually adjusted some things from quali to race, like increasing the rear toe, for example, and a little bit more, front right tire to just get like a more balanced rear. But maybe I just go even more, aggressive on that to get even more, stability for the sprint race, as I think it will be quite important to have the stability, especially like in the crucial phase in the last 5 minutes. But we'll see. I hope the most important thing about this, series is just to get a good qualifying, because the field is so dense, and everyone is so eager to win it, and you just need to basically start ahead to be able to maybe drive away and not be involved in some crashes.
Well, you've got probably 4, maybe even 5 if you're lucky. No, definitely only 4 attempts at it this time, rather than 1 lap qualifying. So best of luck, Gregor, and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Martin. See you. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. So interesting. So often you look at a car and you think, oh, I can see what the problem is there. And then you talk to the driver afterwards. And in fact, he was dealing with exactly the opposite of what you thought. And that's the difference between, laymen like us and actual real racing drivers as well. They tend to know what they're looking at, and we see something slightly different. So okay.
You do have to take what's going on with the replay cameras from the outside as well, which can lie to you from time to time. But I think it was more of a case of me opening my big mouth, Martin.
Well, the question is, with the car being, it has got, for a GT4 car, it's got a fairly large-ish rear wing. It's a relatively short wheelbase. Is taking air off the back actually giving him understeer that he wasn't expecting? Because Jardier was never far behind. So there may be just a little bit that's an aero issue. It might not be. He may end up, and here's the drama, he may end up moving a little too far to give him more rear end stability, which in the race doesn't necessarily work for him, particularly if he's not in front, because he wasn't behind in the race, so he doesn't know what it feels like in the air. He only knows what it feels like when he's giving a tow away. So Jardier, on the other hand, doesn't know what his car's like in clear air, because he was sitting in the slipstream the whole time and in the turbulence the whole time. So you've got to be careful, again, not to overcompensate for what you feel your car was doing, because you haven't got a very wide sample. You've only got one position to deal with, but these guys know what they're doing, don't they? And it
was very interesting to see the different change in approach as we saw both of those drivers on the screen. You had Gregor Schill looking very focused, very determined, as well you would be when you're being the one chased, and Jardier looked like he was having the time of his life, as he always does.
Well, his advantage was there's no one in his rearview mirror. So he knew
Of
if he
course.
made a mistake, he'd made a mistake and he might have given some ground away, but in a couple of laps, he'd be back. Of course, the final couple of laps, probably a little bit less chattering to the crowd and a little bit more of actually focusing on trying to win the race. But that's a big advantage. When you're attacking, not having somebody coming in the back door is really, really handy. When you're defending, you don't have that. You've always got somebody who's trying to come in the back door. So Chardier had that slight advantage, didn't he?
Yeah, and we've also got Thea coming in for an interview as well from the AM class. Thea, great to hear from you. Can you hear us all right there?
Yes, I'm all good.
Amazing. It looked like you're struggling to hear the voice from above there. How have you found the not the SRO AM series? I'm mixing my things. The Alpine Esports Series this time out.
It's amazing. I didn't think much of the Alpine before I joined the series. I had maybe a couple of laps and picked another car instead, but this series has been great fun. And yeah, it's amazing, close racing, and I think it's really hard to handle. So there's sometimes you have a bit of scare. You see someone else at the front having, I had some great battle in this race especially.
We talked a little bit about drivers with favourite racetracks, where they do well. You're a French driver. Is Paul Ricard one of those that you've spent a lot of time racing at, or does it not appear that often?
So it's not too far from where I am actually from. I'm from south of France, so it's like a 2-hour drive maybe. So I really, really love the track for that reason. The landscape reminds me of home. But I race mostly with my community, and my community hate this track, so we don't do too much racing there. We have done an endurance race there, so I guess I know it a little bit more than some other tracks. But yeah, I can't say it's my favorite, but I do have it in my heart.
Yeah, Paul Ricard has a reputation in sim racing circles, which I think is unfairly earned. It can be difficult in a racing sim where you've got a fixed perspective to see across what is quite a flat circuit and to see across the flat curbs, and then of course you've got the hazard striped runoff areas and everything else to deal with. So perhaps in a racing sim, it's not quite as engaging as it would be in a real car. You can get a sense of why somewhere like Spa-Francorchamps is exciting in a racing sim without being able to feel it, of course. Whereas it might be a little bit trickier at somewhere like Paul Ricard.
What about the slipstream, Thea? How tough is it to race in a massive pack of 30 cars?
So the slipstream is very important, and I'm not very good at this, so I keep being told off by my chat. I'm actually streaming it at the same time. That's the most challenging thing ever. It's very important, and I think you can notice it even more with the cars that are behind you. You're very worried because they're coming suddenly very fast, a bit too fast maybe. This is very important, I think, in this little car.
It's all learning, isn't it? And now 10 minutes to qualify as well, so it's not just one lap. You get a chance maybe to work on the car as well.
Yeah, I think it's much better. I didn't get a great lap in the previous quali. I think I was about a second off my normal pace. So hopefully I can go a little bit higher and avoid some of the interesting events we had in the race.
I think
great to talk to you, Thea.
Yeah, interesting events tend to find you wherever you are on this track. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So Thea is one of 5 or 6 AM drivers, all within a few points of each other. Isak, as we said, has checked out at the top and pretty much secured his AM championship. But the rest of the drivers are all in the mid-20s on points, all the way up to 30 for Tom there. So lots to play for in the AM category, while in the pro category as well. Corentin Berges, as you said before, extending his lead to 34 points, thanks to his main rivals in the nature of sort of Bonjour and Piffet all having nightmare races. And lots to play for in both classes, Martin.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's always nice to see a championship come down to the final race. We didn't get anything tied up in... Isak Gillison has probably put himself out of reach, I think, hasn't he?
So 60 points. He's got... He's 30 clear in the AM category now, so that's 28 clear in the AM category. So very much. I think he just needed to sneak a couple of points in that race, and then he went in and got the full sweep. So,
well, he might be spending more time chatting to his nation by the time we get to the start. But we've got definitely the pro title very much wide open still, and again, it's not what you do often, it's what other people do around you that can be the downfall. It's all great having a quick car and a quick driver, but you've also got to know how to take your chances and how to stay out of trouble, and that's not always a given. So it's still, I think, very much open. And qualifying, well, it won't be quite so much pressure. How much of an opportunity in qualifying are they going to get to finalise their car balance as well, Chris?
Well, you would hope that they would be pretty well prepared, but we have from Gregor Schill right there that he'd spent very little time preparing. I'm not sure how much I want to believe that. That might just be a bit of gamesmanship there. Although Gregor is one of the fastest guys I've ever competed with, so perhaps he has just rocked up. He did seem genuinely surprised to be in the lead. But with maybe time for 4 hot laps, if you do them in one sweep or a couple of runs with 1 hot lap each, there's not going to be too much time to play around with things. And those last minute changes to the car often lend you in far more trouble than they do for good, in my experience anyway, Martin.
What are you saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, just go out and do the lap.
I wish I could follow my own advice on that one, but I think that's the smart move.
Yeah, well, as commentators, I don't think we ever follow our own advice, which is part of the problem in life. But there we go. All right, so we're looking at an opportunity then for our championship leader, Corentin Berge. I mean, essentially, if he qualifies well, he is really holding the whip hand. 6 points. Never defend a 1-goal lead, they say in football. 6 points is not a big advantage if you're going to fall behind Jardier again. Florian Bonjour in third, 2 ahead of Gregor Schill. Fabien Piffet we saw dropping way down the order, so he hasn't scored, so he slides from 4th to 5th. Fabien Jeanblanc, he scored 2 points, so he didn't fare too well. Vanko Dimitrov stays 7th. Victor Nicolai stays 8th. Paul Batty drops down to 10th as Alex Doricott came in with top 6 points. So he's now up to 9th place overall. And Jules Sky, who's not here this weekend, he's today. He's this weekend. Also have it. He's one of 3 drivers who has been unable to make it, and there's a new driver is in their place. So he drops out of our top 10. But Berge, 15, 10, 8. So
yeah, with 15 points to play for, everyone down to Jeanblanc is still in the running here. So yeah, we could yet see an upset.
Yes, and 3rd place, depending on who wins it, may just not be enough for Corentin Berge. Oh, that's pressure. So if you want to win the championship, you have to finish on the podium. You might possibly need to finish in the top 2.
Yeah, he didn't have a great qualifying in the first round. It was sort of at the outskirts of the top 10 and made his way forward through a bit of smart racecraft, and thanks to a little bit of help from everyone around in that 5th place backwards pack for a long time, going through the wars, somehow kept it clean, and as did Isaac Gillison, who I believe, he's definitely now our AM champion. This last race, he can sort of kick back and have a bit of fun, Martin.
Well, I think from Yvonne Vanderburgh up to Love 46 to Lubov there, it's 16 points. We've got 15 on offer. So Yvonne Vanderburgh could even end up in 2nd position or 3rd position, or 3rd position at least in the championship. So there is plenty to play for. Bunatik's not here, so he will continue to slip a little bit down the order. We heard from Taya earlier on, so if she can find a little bit more pace, then it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that a top 3 finish in the AM standings might be on the cards from the girl from Toulouse. Toulouse not too far away, as she said, from Le Castellet, same sort of Côte d'Azur-ish region. But yeah.
Yeah, it's no surprise to see those 3 in at the top there. We have Isaac Gillison, who is a McLaren Shadow Esport driver and an ambassador for Track Racer. Lubov is a real world racer. Formula W, amongst other things, lots of karting experience. Tom is a professional esports driver as well, and the ambassador for Alpine Esports as well. So the three less amateur AMs at the top is not quite the shock that I wasn't expecting. I got myself in a bit of a knot there, Martin.
It wasn't quite the yes, exactly right. No, you're absolutely right. You expect the experience to float to the top, and that's exactly what's happened there. And as you say, it's not a strict pro-am championship. They are friends, guests. It would almost have been better as a VIP class, which is your sort of normal nomenclature when you have a Hollywood star or an A-lister or what have you in a car. So so for them, still one more race to go. 25 minutes of crazies trying to stove your door in while you try and stay out of trouble. So there's an awful lot of work still lying ahead of them, and that's going to start with qualifying. So the sun is starting to come up, or the visibility is getting better. The track will be rubbered in nicely. The problem is now there'll be big piles of marbles offline. So if you make a mistake, it could even end up costing you more than it did earlier on.
Yeah, we saw a few people getting offline before there and continuing to sail deep into the distance. There's plenty of runoff here, of course, to explore if you do get offline. But you saw with Jardier where he just put a couple of wheels off onto the right-hand side in the penultimate lap, and it cost him dearly. So as you say, the track conditions, this simulates a race weekend, so they've continued across. We have an optimum track. We're going to see some very fast times and a bunch of drivers with more chance to explore it as well.
Looking at Anastasia Lopez, and she is currently 22nd. What's her best result? She was 8th and 7th in the two races in Monza, so she had a pretty good start to the season, but just down in, where is she? I saw her, yeah, she's in 8th place, only 5 points, so those were her point scores. Didn't have a great time in Spa-Francorchamps.
I think a lot of drivers didn't have a great time in Spa-Francorchamps. Some weren't as prepared for the wet as others, and well, that's always the story of Spa, isn't it, Martin?
Yeah. And where is Yvonne? Yvonne is our fast. Okay, well, they haven't set lap times yet, so that's just the.
Yeah, this is our outlap. We're seeing the cars come around to take their first flying lap. As you see, we're already a quarter of the way of the session gone. So while I was talking about a luxurious 10-minute qualifying, that really is only in relation to that 5-minute one-lap qualifying that we had in the previous rounds. We look at Yvonne Vanderburgh trying to get a bit of heat into the tyres of that little Alpine A110.
I'm loving the backdrop. She's got 69 Vegas return. She's got white jumpsuit Elvis, and she's got what looks like blue Hawaii Elvis there on the left-hand side as well. Of course, I may be completely misinterpreting those, but
I think you might have a bigger monitor than me, Martin. I can't even tell it's Elvis.
Well, I'm guessing from the outfits, particularly the one in the centre definitely looks like the prime Vegas years. Or not past his prime, possibly Vegas years. They argue. So
looking at Yvonne Vanderburgh taking the start of her first flying lap. We haven't seen a lot of her so far in this event. We haven't seen a lot of some of the AMs just because the racing has been a bit more spread out in that category, while the pros have been, as Martin said, bouncing off of the top of each other.
Absolutely. But good opportunity to, as you talked about, riding the curbs here. They are very flat here. I mean, the circuit was originally built as a race circuit, and then it was bought by Bernie Ecclestone and a group of others, and it was actually converted into it's what it's currently known as HTTP, High Tech Test Track, HTTT. So it wasn't ever intended to become a racing circuit again, but locally the pressure was applied for it to become so, and it has in fact become the home of the French Grand Prix again. But all the runoff areas you talked about, all the multiple stripes, I think there's something like 70 potential different layouts you can use for track configurations here, from kart circuit to full Grand Prix circuit and everything in between. It's a very different place to anywhere else. You talk about Spa or Monza or Silverstone or any other track you can think of. Nothing is like this. And it's not MotoGP curbs that make them so low, it's testing. You know, cars come here and run for 30 hours before Le Mans, and it's almost the dullest thing that any racing driver will ever have to do. It is enormously important, but it's not enormously popular doing full long distance runs here because there's so little to, you know, keep you entertained. Julian Chandra comes across the line in the number 9 machine. Now he's in for Jules Sky this weekend, so another French driver in the pro class. 12th quickest time for him, but 2.8 seconds away, so he's not that familiar with what he needs to get out of the Alpine. And of course, I don't suppose he's got a fully comprehensive setup sheet for going as fast as everybody at the sharp end.
No, and that is very much a thing with these cars. They're not quite as complex as their GT3 counterparts, but setup is all important, especially as you see, particularly with this Alpine, just how much it moves around during the corner. Finding that grip limit is as much about your feel with the car as it is about getting the setup on point. And interestingly, as we start to see the first fast times pour in from the likes of Victor Nicolai, Florian Bonjour, Isaac Gillison and Jardier, they're all in the mid to low 204s now. They're a few tenths lower as the track temperature has risen, the air temperature has risen, perhaps impacting the peak power of that little a 1.8 litre turbocharged engine in the Alpine a little bit more than it would with other cars.
You can see the sun's not having too much of an effect yet. Air temperature 26, track temp is following it. By the middle of the afternoon, the track temp will be sort of roughly double your air temperature here on a, as it so often is in the Côte d'Azur, a hot and sunny day.
Yeah, I've only visited the circuit once myself in real life, but it was beautifully 28 degrees every single day, and a very nice place to be, actually, Martin, I must say.
It is a very nice place. But I have to say, my first ever race here was European Le Mans Series many moons ago, and it was Arctic. It was absolutely Baltic. It was beginning early in the season, but you didn't want to leave the TV truck at any stage whatsoever. And everybody was chronically underdressed because they were all going, oh, south of France, lovely. We'll all pop down to the seaside and have fish dinner overlooking. No, it was cold, and the catering tent almost blew away. I mean, it was cold. However, Jardier knocking in the fastest time at the moment, nearly 2 tenths quicker than Gregor Schill. That might be an interesting battle. Jardier starts out front from Gregor, and Fabien Piffet, well, his championship chances are probably more slender than he would like, I think, now. Nicolai, Bonjour, Gillison, we'll have to wait and see.
What's interesting about this is that Jardier found 4 tenths on that second lap. Gregor Schill found a lot of time on that second lap, so this might well be a tyre warm-up thing. As we said, no tyre warmers in the GT4s. The track temperature is actually pretty low, so Victor Nicolai on a very fast lap at the moment, 3 tenths up, 4 tenths up now, having to dodge around traffic, thankfully getting out of the way. He's got traffic in front of him, but this could well be the time that puts him to the top of the sheets, and an important lap.
Yeah, unless he really fluffs it, then he's got a very good shot. He was only 2,700, 2,800s back, so this could put him 13, 1,400s in front. The question
this is Jardier just ahead, 2 tenths up himself, so the time's starting to tumble. Tyre temperature's obviously coming into play here. Jardier looking calm as ever as he comes across the line. Does he improve? He does by just over 1/10 of a second. Victor Nicolai does put in a fast time, but it's not enough to beat the pacey Czech there.
No, Gregor Schill needs some time. And Florian Bonjour, 5th.
Florian going very quick now as well. He's thrown it away in the final corner. Sadly comes across the line, only good enough for 3rd. He was 1/10 up just before that. So with 1 lap left to go for most of these, I think there's still room to play for at the top end of the field, Martin.
And still no lap from Corentin Berge, our championship points leader. So if he's going to get a lap in, if he's going to do 1 lap, he probably ought to do it before the checkered flag comes out, because where he is right now with no time on the board, and he's one of 4 drivers who haven't got a time on the board, then he could be in real trouble. Here he comes, This will be
That's
him going up into 8th place. Well, for an opening foray, that's not too bad. Corentin Berge, though, needs to put in a couple of decent laps to try and improve on that. Paul Batty goes up to 8th place now, so Corentin Berge down to 9th, and that is the last point if Isaac Gillison stays ahead of them, because the AM driver won't score outright points. So
yeah, this is a critical lap.
Disaster, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a critical lap for Corentin.
And look at the reality on his dash, checkered flag.
Yep, I think he did get across the line in time. If he's not going to get bolted here, this is last chance hotel for Corentin Berger. Realistically, he's been putting in a couple of laps. He's not been able to set representative times. The times have been deleted, and he's been down in the sort of 207, 206s. He's caught traffic. He's had a nightmare of a time. He's getting a good tow here down the Mistral Straight.
Yeah, I thought that was Yvonne Vanderburgh. It is. So she's giving him a good run down here, but it's where he catches her. If he can get by on the exit of Senior into Beausset, then he'll be happy. If he can't, then he will be stuck all the way. All right, now he's looking around the outside, but it's not going to happen for him. Has to cut back underneath the Dutch woman, and there's contact, and that might be the end of his championship.
That is a horrible thing to see. Yvonne on a hot lap as well, so she wasn't blocking. She had every right to take the racing line there. Corentin, I think, sensed the gravity of the situation he was in and just threw it into Beausset. Hoped the car would grip up and there'd be room for both of them, and sadly there wasn't, as we see Thea coming through to complete her final lap. She is at the top of her little pack there of the AM drivers, if we're deleting Isaac there, who's on another planet. Great qualifying from Thea there.
Yeah, excellent. So she comes out as second in the AM category, and that will help her move up in the standings as well. But Corentin Berge, oh dear. Is there going to be a grid penalty for that?
I'm just clicking over to the stewards thing to see if they're having a look at it now. There is furious action going on the spreadsheet.
Yeah,
but
there will be, won't there? And it was sort of more, what's your gut instinct? I'd be surprised if they just go, yeah, whatever, it's only qualifying.
Yeah, you can't do things like that. Yvonne had every right to take the line into that corner, and to some extent, I understand why Corentin did that. It was last chance hotel for him. He'd had a poor qualifying up to that point, and if he wanted to take the championship down to the wire, he was going to struggle to do it from outside of the top 10. As it happens, he's in 9th place, so he's likely, if they do apply a penalty, to start the race with an in-race penalty hanging over him, because I don't think there's enough time to apply a grid penalty at this stage, because they'd have to rewrite the entry list. And we are on a tight schedule tonight, Martin.
Well, it might be a 5 or 10 second penalty or something like that. 30 seconds, it's almost not worth turning up. But 5 or 10 seconds, you might get the break in traffic, you might get free and open that gap ahead of those behind. But for Corentin Berge, one lap pretty much was the one that counted. That was still 7/10 off Jardier, and Jardier with a very impressive run in qualifying, a 10th ahead of Victor Nicolai, who lines up alongside him on the outside the front row of the grid. So Jardier really putting a great run together in qualifying, and whether he's made changes to the car or not, we'll have to wait and see. Gregor, though, whether he made changes significant enough, only 4th quickest, so may not have worked exactly what he was hoping, the way that he was hoping.
Yeah, Victor Nicolai really got it together in that race. We saw him as a big protagonist, particularly in Monza and perhaps a little less so through Spa. We didn't see much of him in the last, the little sprint race we just had, but popping it up second on the timesheets there. I suspect he's going to factor during this race. And Florian Bonjour as well. Perhaps a little too late for him, but Jardier sitting pretty. I'm keeping an eye on the stewards' decision here. They have noted the incident between Vanderburgh and Berge, and we will see what happens there.
Yeah, hard not to notice, because the cameras were following so closely, because he was the story, wasn't he? In the final 2 minutes of qualifying, he was the story. Can he get a lap? Has he got a lap? Is he going to be anywhere or nowhere. And unfortunately, it's really, tough break for him. If he caught Yvonne early in the straight, or early enough in the straight, he could have been by out of senior or into senior maybe. He just caught her in precisely, pretty much, apart from corners 3 and 4, the only place you don't want to catch somebody on a qualifying lap. And once you've done all the hard work and slipstreamed up down the Mistral, then to lose it in the final sector is pretty tough. But unfortunately, them supports.
Well, yeah, I mean, the final sector, Paul Ricard has 3 or 4 very long corners. You've got to really have someone that is compliant in the process if you're hoping to pass them. And with both drivers on their last chance fast lap, I can't imagine either of them were willing to give any ground. As we see the cars on the grid, we've got a 4-minute start timer. So we've got a little bit of time before this final 25-minute race of the Alpine Esports Series gets underway. And I suspect 25 more minutes of pack racing, Martin.
I think exactly right, yes. And the key here is not to get hung out to dry and dropped behind a queue of cars as they all stream by. And the problem is exactly that. Once one goes by, you'll find that 2 or 3 other have ganged up with him, and their queue goes faster than you on your own, and that's the drama. So Jardier on pole from Victor Nicolai. We have Florian Bonjour lining up 3rd from Gregor Schill. And in 5th and 6th position, we've got Piffet and Dimitrov. And that could be an interesting battle as well. Fabien Piffet, the Frenchman, and Victor Dimitrov alongside him. And behind them, Isaac Gillison. He's made some pretty impressive starts so far. And at the moment, we're not seeing anything for Corentin Berge, but our championship leader must have been worried in the last minutes of qualifying. Is probably a lot more worried now. I wonder if the 5-minute countdown to the start is not to allow us to have a lovely super slow grid roll, but to allow the stewards to have yet another look at the details and maybe speak to Corentin on the Discord channel and what went on, what are your mitigating circumstances. It's going to be very hard for him to argue that it was anything other than an error on his part, and that could be tough for him.
Well, ours is not to know the inner workings of the minds of a steward, Martin, so I'm not going to try and predict what they're going to come up with.
Agreed. I sort of gave up on that a couple of decades ago. You do still hold out hope for sense and sensibility, but you're never entirely guaranteed. Maxime Dubre there on the right-hand side, and alongside him, Remy Flores Ibanez, who's in for Thomas Chaval, Dubre in for Redouin Massoud. So they both qualified a little further back than the previous occupants of those cars might have done.
Yeah, well, there is a bit of a learning curve here that it looks like jumping into these GT4 cars, they might be a bit easier to drive. But I've been driving GT4 in our own endurance series this year, and it's been pretty tough. They're punishing in a different way. Without the aero, you do have to hustle the car a lot more through the corners, which is a lot more engaging, a lot more fun. But there's a lot more room for error as well.
Yeah, I think they're less forgiving of mistakes, aren't they? It always seems to me a little bit like old-fashioned Formula 3, where there's only one thing. In property, it's location, location, location. In GT4, it's momentum, momentum, momentum. There you are. You can use that later. Or throw
write that one down.
Well, there's 53 Lubov right on the back row of the grid, and Anastasia Lopez alongside her. Anna on air. So that there is Lubov. 29th place on our 30-car grid, was due to be 32, but two of our competitors at late notice couldn't join us. I'm not sure who she's chatting to on her stream, but
that's a bad qualifying for Lubov, actually. Yeah. She was running second in the championship up until this stage, behind obviously Isaac, who, as I said before, has checked out a bit at the top. So she's got her work cut out for her. Main rival at this stage, you have to say, is Taya, who at the front of that pack. But 25 minutes doesn't sound like a long time for a motor race, but with this much slipstreaming going on down the Mistral, I think 25 minutes will be quite long enough for some of them.
I think they'll be working up a sweat. No matter what else, this is not going to be calm, cool, or collected. This is going to be busy, busy, busy. So we are almost ready to get the final race of this Alpine Esports Series underway here at the Circuit de Castellet. Paul Ricard. You can see there Victor Nicolai on the outside of the front row of the grid. Jardier with the dark grey colours. Nicolai with that sort of primary, very white, light grey. The fellow front row starter. And Corentin Berge, at the moment, no penalty being shown after that contact in qualifying. But we are ready to go to the rolling start. 25 minutes around this Paul Ricard circuit, the home of the French Grand Prix. The final race is... Red lights are still on, waiting for them to go green as they get to the line. We have gone green, so green flags are waving. Lights didn't
Immediately
change.
a drive-through penalty for Nicolai.
Ahead. Yeah, he was ahead of Jardier. I think there's the confusion. He got ahead of Jardier and was ahead of him at the line. And that is him out of the championship then. So Victor Nicolai wasn't featuring very strongly. But if he doesn't go in at the end of this lap to serve the drive-through, then suddenly Jardier, our race leader in car number 4, has a great opportunity with somebody behind with nothing to lose, holding everybody else up.
Yeah, that's all of his Christmases come at once there for Jardier. He's got a cork in the bottle that is Victor Nicolai. That's penalty has been served by the game itself, not by our stewards. So as far as I'm aware, yeah, that is almost certainly for that start line infringement, as it all looks rather calm so far, heading down the Mistral for the first time.
Oh, foolish boy. 1 minute and 3 seconds on the clock and 23:57 to go, and you're saying how calm it looks. On board with Corentin Berge, 7th place, so he's jumped Isaac Gillison at the start. Really important move for him, and he must go forward. Don't forget, this is effectively 6th because Nicolai has a drive-through, so he will inherit that spot. Right in front is Piffet, number 2 machine of Fabien Piffet, another French driver. Gets right in underneath him going into the Beausset, but too deep in behind him. There's Berge with the darker blue colours, not the sort of metallic pale blue that is the historic Alpine colour of the cars built in Dieppe.
Yeah, very much got the car underneath him at the moment, unlike Fabien Jean-Blanc, who's struggling for grip on the inside curb there. That is one of the slightly steeper curbs. There aren't any really steep curbs here. That is one that does upset the car. It's a very late entry to that corner, and you can take a lot of curb, but you have to be very careful. Fabien Jean-Blanc just taking a little bit too much with these cold tyres.
So Nicolai has not gone into the pit lane this time round, and that means that he is in 2nd place and Florian Bonjour in 3rd position. Well, now this is a double-edged sword really for Jardier as cones go flying in turn 1. If Jardier doesn't escape, then the rest of them could use Nicolai as a slingshot to help them up the straight. However, Nicolai has got away from Florian Bonjour there in the number 8 car, and so any chance of that happening has gone. And Nicolai now looks like he wants to pass Jardier. So, Chris Hayes, what do you do if you want to win the championship and you've put yourself in a position to try and do so? If somebody who you know has got a drive-through to serve in 2 laps comes a-calling, do you just let him go and sit behind him, or do you try and hold him off?
Well, it's difficult in this kind of pack racing, as we've seen, as just getting slightly offline can cost you multiple places. But with the championship on the line, you have to take the smart move, I think. Interestingly, as you say, not coming in to serve the drive-through penalty immediately. I wonder if he might be lobbying with the stewards because that was a game-served penalty. Either that or Victor Nicolai is just out for fun now. Who knows?
But it might just be the latter, actually, that he'll serve it at the last possible moment. It's always my theory that you serve it at the earliest possible moment and let you get on with the sort of recovery drive as much as you can. But if he's been pinged by the server, then it won't have been because they didn't like the wallpaper in the background of his driver camera shot. It will have been because he did something wrong in the 15 seconds between the rollaway and the start line. So my assumption there would be that he had his nose slightly in front of Jardier.
Yeah, there's an enforced there's also an enforced speed limit as well, which if you just creep over it, that can be problematic. Victor Nicolai, though, clearly not serving the drive through this time and looking pretty aggressive as well. He is out for blood.
Well, again, the drama there for Jardier is if Nicolai, while he's busy arguing with the stewards and he's busy shouting at the screen, gets it wrong under braking, if he punts Jardier off, nobody can put him back in, reset the game and say, okay, we'll just take that one out. You don't get a let. If you get knocked off, you're out, or potentially out. So Jardier has to be very cautious about the man behind him. Whether he's due to serve a penalty or not doesn't necessarily avoid any contact. So Jardier wisely just trying to creep away as much as he can, and in the process he's opening up a little bit of a gap over Florian Bonjour, because Bonjour and Gregor Schill, battling for what should be third place, are slowing each other down a little bit. Jardier doesn't have to compromise his racing line quite so much at the moment, although as you can see he is going straight down the middle of the straight and just being very cautious about where the car behind him goes.
Yeah, so picking up on the penalty thing from earlier, I don't think Berger is going to be serving a penalty for his qualifying contact. I've got no messages from the stewards, but we do have a 5-second penalty for car number 24 impeding during qualifying now that's appeared. And as you can see for Metier there, that is what's occurred there. So I'm thinking, and this may be very dangerous, as
Schill gets by for third. Schill goes by Bonjour for third place. That's a really important move.
Second overall as well, as Nicolai will have to serve that drive through, I believe, this time around. Yeah. It depends exactly when it was served. I think it would have been after the start-finish line, so he may actually have one more lap to serve it. We will see. Either way, if he'll be coming in within the next lap or so, and he is in the pits now. So Gregor Schill now up to second place, but he is going to need to catch and pass Jardier if he wants any chance of taking this championship.
Absolutely so, and in fact he needs Jardier to finish 2 or 3 places behind him, doesn't he, because he came in a sizable margin behind. The eyes now are, or the arithmetic now, is Jardier versus Corentin Berge. Corentin Berge in 5th place. So
yeah, he's got a 6-point advantage, hasn't he? So
yeah,
not.
But he only scores 4 for 5th place, doesn't he?
That's not enough at the moment.
No, it's not. At the moment, it is advantage Jardier, and the question is, what does Gregor Schill get out of this? Does he still end up third, or does he take second from Corentin Berge? I didn't write the points down after race 1. Rookie error, Haven. Rookie error. Jardier leads, though, and the gap 2.1 to Gregor Schill, and Schill is towing along Bonjour, Dimitrov, Berge and Gillison and Piffet, and then there's a little gap back to Fabien Jeanblanc, who is in 8th place, but the rest of them, oh no, Piffet has dropped way back now. He's lost over half a second on that last sector, or nearly half a second on that last sector.
Well, half a second here might as well be a lap in this kind of pack racing, as we... Oh, look at that. It's a very late move from Corentin there, retracing his steps from qualifying, but he is desperate to get past Dimitrov, and the reason is he needs to get up onto the podium. He needs those 8 points if Jardier wins to secure his championship.
I think you're right. My sort of guesstimate was that he needed third to guarantee it, and anything else, then you're sort of a bit in the lap of the gods. And at the moment, getting by Dimitrov would give him 4th. We ride on board with Vanko Dimitrov, number 10 A110 GT4, and right ahead of him is Florian Bonjour. If we weren't looking at his rearview mirror, you'd be able to see Bonjour. And the gap there now out to almost a quarter of a second, so 2 car lengths.
Yeah, that right there is very much the fight for the championship. As long as Jardier stays out in front, we are watching Corentin Berge just to see if he can. And he does seem to have a lot of fighting spirit in him. It's a question of if not when, maybe with Dimitrov, but then he's got a whole second, which, as I referenced before, is a long way on this particular circuit in these particular cars to make up to get onto the back of Bonjour.
Yeah, And Jardier jumping away out front, quarter of a second ahead of Gregor Schill. That gap is sort of maintained. Florian Bonjour in third place, a third of a second back from Schill. And then, as you say, Dimitrov is not as quick as the top three. And that's a real drama because Corentin Berge might be as quick as the top three. 10 minutes done almost already. And he's up from 8th where he was, 9th where he was on the grid, to 5th position, but he's got to make the move. We're watching at the moment Corentin Berge with Isaac Gillison right behind him, and if Berge gets the assist from Gillison, he should go around the outside of Dimitrov. There he is. We're looking across from Vanko Dimitrov, and it's 3 wide down into Beausset, and through goes the AM driver, and Dimitrov hangs on. He gave Gillison a little biff, and Berge went out wide. Did Piffet and or Jean Blanc get by? Well, there's 56, Gillison ahead of Berge, who runs into the back of him. Number 2 is Piffet, so he did not get by. And
yeah, it's getting a bit punchy out there now. Everything on the line for Berge. And Gillison, as you said, snuck by there, now behind after that little punt from Berge himself. So wow, Gillison up the inside very late into Virage du Pont, make a small contact, but this is turning into a touring car race, Martin.
Yeah, super late on the brakes there, wasn't it, Isaac Gillison? Blimey O'Reilly. Corentin Berge, I thought, really held on well there, just held his line and hoped that everything would go well for him. This is Bonjour, and is that Schill right in front?
It absolutely is. Bonjour doing an excellent job there. And with those 3 behind battling it out, that's actually given him a small amount of breather, as it has Dimitrov as well.
So what did Gregor Schill do wrong? Because he was only a quarter of a second, 0.25 behind Jardier at the beginning of the last lap.
His last lap is registering at about the same pace as Jardier and the same as Florian Bonjour. So I suspect we've missed something with Florian creeping back up there, but doing a great job quietly while we've been focusing on the championship leader.
And watching Fabien Piffet at the moment, 26-year-old in the thick of the action. French driver in the number 2 machine, currently in 7th place. Right in front of him is Isaac Gillison. Didn't do much.
Yeah, he's right on the...
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, right on the back of that pack of 3 or 4 cars that are battling out, so plenty of spoils potentially to be picked up here as Berger and Gillison still fighting it out through Scenes and Beausset, replicating the last lap and the lap before and qualifying.
Piffet, a relatively new convert to ACC, the platform we're racing on. Done a lot before on Forza. Corentin Berge still in 5th position, car number 6. That's not enough. The maths at the moment are working against him. He will lose the championship that he has led, not quite since Monza, but certainly since the beginning of the Spa race weekend. And that is going to be pretty tough. Right behind him with the red rear end on his car is 56, Isaac Gillison. We've seen that Isaac is more than happy to roll his sleeves up and get in amongst it, even if it is the championship leader. Of course, he's invisible for points, but Corentin Berge still doesn't want any more cars between him and a 3rd place finish. But at the moment, a 3rd place finish is a while away. They're creeping further and further away, aren't they? And Jardier 2 seconds clear of the field. The gap's come down though. So Gregor Schill in 2nd and Florian Bonjour in 3rd together are going quicker than Jardier on his own, and that is a simple fact of life. It's not that they are working together, just that a number of cars slipstreaming along will actually be less draggy than one car on its own. So Jardier out front at the moment.
Yeah, he had a messy lap last time out, half a second slower than the rest of the pack and his previous best. Berge once again in the slipstream. He's come back up behind Dimitrov. He's caught him up, but he's now 3 seconds behind Bonjour, which is the place he needs. So even if he can try once again round the outside of Senior, as we saw a couple of laps ago, didn't quite manage to pull it off. gets into the slipstream, pulls out, hits the wall of air, and stops making progress. He's a little bit further ahead this time, but it's still not enough. He's going to have to go out wide, get back in before the boards. Once again, we see Gillison get in on the action, launches it from a long way behind. This time, Gillison hits Dimitrov in a sort of weird reversal of what happened a couple of laps ago, and finally, Berge ends up at the front of this pack.
Okay, so Berge 3.3 seconds back, and that now is the margin that he's got to close in the remaining 10 minutes. What I was going to say, actually, when they're on the Mistral, Gillison was not close enough for Berge to really benefit. Berge was creeping alongside. If Gillison had been right on his back bumper, they would have sped past Dimitrov. As it was, Gillison maybe just keeping his powder dry to have that lunge out of Senior, and it worked out well for Corentin Berge. Meanwhile, Bonjour all over the back of Schill. There's the race leader, not in front of him, but 2 cars in front of him. So the gap is sort of stabilising at 2 seconds and change for Jardier. So he is out front still, but now it's what Corentin Berge can do. Looking at Florian Bonjour in the number 8 machine. This is the battle for second place, and it is Bonjour that Berge must get to. And right now, he is a little over 2 seconds behind him on the road. The gap.
Yeah, well, and they've been lapping well over a second off of the pace of the leaders, who are obviously in clear air and not fighting out with each other, which is why he's found himself so far away. 3 seconds doesn't sound like a lot in a motor race, but in a short one like this, it's very much the case. Isaac Gillison now coming back at Berge. This is going to keep going on throughout the race, I'm sure. Yeah. This time it's his job to go around the outside of Senior, hits that wall of air. The progress is going to stop once again. And for once, Berge actually has the inside line. And, well, let's see how this works out for him.
The problem with the inside line is it's the dirty line. There's not rubber down there, and you have less grip, and you know you're going to run out wide. So you have to bear that in mind as well. Isaac Gillison still on the outside. Drifts out a little wide. Look on the extreme left of your screen under the timing pylon. Through comes Berge, and Dimitrov gets the place back from Gillison as well. So Isaac Gillison on the right hand side blows his cheeks out, losing ground there as well to Jean Blanc. Fabien Jean Blanc is going by him. Is he for 7th place? I think he's just about holding on. He holds off Jean Blanc, but he is back down to 6th place.
We've seen this so many times with these cars. One tiny little mistake going a little bit offline and you lose multiple positions. Again, you mentioned momentum, and that very much costing Isaac Gillison there.
Gillison is still in the battle for another top 6 finish overall. And you can see that Thea down in 23rd place is the second of our AM category cars with a red number, Thea Buch. So she is some way behind him, however, will score the same number of points for 2nd place. That's still a 10-pointer. So that will help her in the overall AM standings as well. And who is behind her? Let's just have a look at the next one. Our next AM is, I think that's Tom in 3rd.
We've got Florian Bonjour making some real progress on Gregor Schill now, tucked up on the run into Mistral. It's a long way down the straight. I got myself caught out a couple of laps ago by calling things a little bit early, expecting the cars to get to the end a little bit quicker perhaps than they did. But this slipstream, not the most powerful, but it seems to be getting the job done, Martin. Gregor Schill not looking particularly impressed with it, though.
No, he's not, is he? And here comes Florian Bonjour. Now, could Bonjour win the championship? Don't forget, he was only 1 point off leader Corentin Berge before we started this race weekend. Didn't have as strong a race 2. Somebody else is going to need to do the maths, though, I'm afraid, because I haven't got that many eyes, and I'm certainly short on fingers and thumbs. So we'll have to see how that works out. But I think he might. Well,
he was 1 point. He was 1 point behind Jardier going into this race. So unless he's going to get past Gregor and past Jardier as well, then he's going to have a hard time doing that as we see him drifting his way through. That's Fabien Jeanblanc, sorry.
Yeah, that's Fabien Jeanblanc in the battle with Pifet in the number 2 machine. And behind, again, is Isaac Gillison. Jeanblanc gets a little tap, and so he gets run out wide.
There, I believe that stewards will definitely be looking at that. That was a big lay-breaking moment, hitting the back of Dimitrov, who was running in 5th place. All 5 cars still running, and within small envelopes space of each other. We see Gregor Schill there battling with Bonjour down into turn 1. Everyone battling down into turn 1 this time around.
Now, if Schill and or Bonjour make a mess of their battle for second, then suddenly Corentin Berge might end up in 3rd. Meanwhile, at the back of this little group, Jeanblanc and Batty, I think, squabbling. Batty, the number 11 machine, yes it is. They're squabbling for 8th place. Batty was in 8th, and Jeanblanc has squeezed by him. So Paul Batty, 19-year-old Frenchman, trying to cling on there, and he's got a drive-through penalty. So that has been handed to him.
That was for hitting the rear of. So there was a warning for the tap with Dimitrov there for Jeanblanc that we saw a couple of corners ago. Paul Batty's drive-through, I think, is imposed by the games. That's probably for track limits.
Might well be. Fabien Jeanblanc, there you can see in the number 7 machine, 8th place at the moment, trying to chase down Isaac Gillison. But Dimitrov, Pifet, they've lost any hope of staying with Corentin Berge. Must be very frustrating for Berge, because he's clearly quicker than all the guys that he was stuck behind. Here's the battle for 5th again. Pifet in the number 2 machine, Fabien Pifet. And Victor Dimitrov has a big moment there. A little too much oversteer. And rejoins, I think, right in the door, probably, of the 26 car of Isaac Gillison.
Yeah, I think we might have seen a bit of a server spike or something going on a bit weird there. We didn't see any contact, but it looked to me like Dimitrov had a little bit of contact, but it wasn't shown in the game. Not entirely sure what the situation is there. But back up front, well, nearer the front, with that battle with Gillison still in the thick of it.
Yep. So Gillison 6th place, Jeanblanc right behind him, and Dimitrov closing in. In fact, Dimitrov has dropped another spot, hasn't he? Left-hand side, you're looking at the 3rd place car of Florian Bonjour, still all over the back of Gregor Schill. So
looking very good under braking, very good under turn in, and in just the right place, coming on that all-important run into Mistral. Let's see how close he can stay, what sort of drive he gets. Gregor Schill pulls away a little bit, as you'd expect, in the acceleration zone, but he's still looking very close, Martin.
However, the leader is now 3.5 seconds clear of that battle for 2nd place. This is all helping Jardier enormously. Looking just around the top 10, Alexander Doricot in the 21 machine, just ahead of number 5, which is Stepan Kutnik. And he's got Bududa behind him.
Here we go, Florian Bonjour round the outside. This seems to be the preferred move, obviously, as the car in front takes the defensive line into senior. Once again, they come out side by side. Not quite enough this time for Florian Bonjour. He's only got a lap or 2 left to try and get past, as has Isaac even Gillison.
Yeah, it's very hard unless you've got a big speed advantage to go the long way round. It is such a long way round, and that right-hander at senior is followed by 2 more here at Dubose. And so, whoa, synchronized spinning, and that is Bonjour and Schill. And Bonjour makes the best of it and is up to 2nd, and Gregor Schill, I think, well, he's going to rejoin, hopefully ahead of these guys, but
we'll have to wait to see the timing update to get an answer on that, but it did look very much like both lost it at the same point. Synchronized, as you say, a bit of drifting, really. It was beautiful in a way, but beautiful for Berge. There was contact just before we cut to it, which sort of explains things, but for our championship, that moment is absolutely critical, Martin.
It is absolutely critical, and if there was contact initiated by Bonjour on the inside of Schill, then it's likely that Berge will get moved up as well. because any kind of penalty is going to see Corentin Berge in second place rather than third. So we'll have to wait and see what happened, or what happens as a legacy of what happened. But right now, suddenly, Jardier, 60 seconds, 90 seconds ago, was looking like he was made in the shade. And suddenly, Corentin Berge, through just plugging away and doing whatever he could, may have found the championship dropping back into his lap.
Well, with a minute and a lap potentially to go, I suspect our race leaders are going to get round in time to do another lap. So it's difficult to make predictions at this stage because so much has happened. But if I were to be in any car right now, I think Corentin Berge would be the one I'd be in, with a nice gap in front and a nice gap behind. He's not in the wars, unlike Isaac Gillison, who's about to go 3 wide into senior.
Well, the great thing with Gillison is this is just a fun race. He's already the champion in the AM category. That can't change. He's uncatchable. Whoa, 3 wide behind, and all 3 with that beautiful pale metallic Alpine bleu. Gillison on the inside, trying to find his way by Piffet for 4th place. Of course, it doesn't make any difference to the points, but racers are racers. They don't like being passed no matter what. So Piffet will hang on. And then Schill trying to come back. He hasn't got by Jean Blanc. Jean Blanc, the number 7 machine, is still there. And here across the line, Jardier with 2 seconds, 1 second. Checkered flag is out. Race
Jardier
is run.
Just held off the time there, dropped off a second or so just so he caught the checkered flag right there at the last minute and didn't have to do an extra lap. Gillison still battling away with Piffet right to the last minute, doesn't quite get the job done, as Jean Blanc as well. They're coming up very fast in the end. Neither of them changed places right at the end.
Right, couple more penalties. There was a drive-through as well, which has moved a few up. Another drive-through from Mazur, 15 seconds added to Stepan Kutnik's time. And Victor Dimitrov, no, we haven't seen that. Okay, so let's see what transpires. This is the battle for second that may have changed the championship, Chris.
Yeah, so this is Bonjour on Gregor Schill coming onto the Mistral straight. Is this... I didn't think this was where we saw the incident, but oh yeah, they got side by side. Small touch on the inside from Jean Blanc on Gregor Schill. That was all it took, with tyres right on the edge. You could see them right on the edge of the grip limit just before they touched, and well, just needed a little bit of a help around, Martin.
Yes, absolutely. Right in front of the TV trucks, ironically enough. That's what was in the background, or what would have been in the background if we needed TV trucks for esports. But yeah, the cars are absolutely hanging on with what tiny little bit of grip patch, the contact patch they've got left there. And, you know, you burp in the wrong place and the car goes off there, never mind a tiny little bit of a touch. And it didn't look like it was any kind of deliberate touch. But by the end of the race, you know, tyres are getting worn, drivers are getting hot, and mistakes are possible.
And the stewards agree with you. They've said no further action for that one. Very quickly dealt with there, as the stewards have been throughout this. So we have at least a finalised top 5. So I think we can...
So Corentin...
I think I can make a bold prediction here that Corentin Berge has done enough.
I think he has done enough, hasn't he? 15, 10, 8. So he had a 6-point advantage.
He did.
Over Jardier going in. And he scores 7 points fewer than Jardier.
So it's not quite enough, is it?
No. But then I'm trying to remember what the points gap was, and I haven't got it written down. Jardier maybe champion by 1 point.
Jardier was 6 points ahead going into the race. He was on 30... It's just the spreadsheet I'm looking at is changing as I'm talking, so the numbers are literally changing in front of my eyes. So we will find out momentarily. Broadcasting
for you. So yeah, as ever, my maths is right. I think we did think that third place might not be enough for
I can tell you now that you're absolutely right. Jardier did do enough in the end. He is 1 point ahead, 43 points to 42 points for Corentin Berge. He did a fantastic job. Corentin did everything he could. He was consistent throughout every race, but at the end of the day, Jardier, he brought home the wins.
Yes, absolutely. He really did, didn't he? And, you know, we talked about consistency, but if you're consistently on the podium, that's one thing. if you win half the races, that's quite consistent as well. So
Jardier was on the podium 4 times in the end as well himself. So twice at Monza and twice in Paul Ricard, 2 of which being wins. I think he's the only driver to have won twice as well. So, Gregor Schill, of course, was won twice. He won, but he only won sprint race in Paul Ricard and the main race in Monza. Hasn't really picked up a lot else. So, which is why we see Jardier, arguably the most consistent driver, except for Corentin Berger, but not quite enough in the end, sadly.
Yeah, and it's always tough, it's, as we said, it's other drivers that could well make the difference here. In fact, it's other drivers that made the difference that got Corentin into third, but it was other drivers that he was trying to get by that also made a difference. But once more, qualifying, it's not everything. This isn't Monaco, but it is very important. If you start at the sharp end, it tends to be a little easier to stay there.
Very much so. That was a masterful display, just taking the championship aside by Jardier there, qualified the car up the front, took the lead and ran away with it. Had a little bit of worries early on with other cars around him, but after the first couple of laps, it didn't really seem like it was going to be too much of an issue.
No,
Probably the calmest race we've seen up front, in fact.
Definitely for the leader, yes. The rest of it was all pretty busy. And, we talked about this looking here at 2 of our AMs, Lubov and Tom, and their race will have been equally as busy as everybody had expected. There's Yvonne Vanderburgh. She had a busy time of it as well, trying to get herself insinuated between the 2 of them.
Yeah, Lubov in the end did manage to grab second in the championship, joint second with Tom actually. So just again the spreadsheet just updating as I'm talking, both on 36 points, well short of the 75 for Isaac Gillison, who took first place in the AM category in every single round there, but very close points in the AM category as well. I'm sure we'll see when the graphic is presented in a moment. Gregor Schill, we're watching a slow motion overtake. He's one of the drivers that has to be bitterly disappointed. He clearly had pace in all of the races, but misfortune found him, and over and over again, it would seem.
Yeah, and the shorter the race series, the more effect a zero has, or and there are lots of zeros. There's 32 cars on the grid and 8 points playing positions. 3/4 of the drivers are always going to be disappointed, aren't they? The fact that he was the best of the qualifiers is, it's a bit of a moot point. If it's not your year, if it's not your race, if it's not your day, then there's very little you can do about it. You can try and mitigate the disasters, but sometimes ill fortune comes and finds you. Florian Bonjour and Gregor Schill running for top places in the championship, but unfortunately,
look how much the cars were moving around through senior there, and of course that was the 2 that came together and was a big story throughout the latter part of this race. But just watch how much the cars are moving around in these beautiful slow motion shots. Tricky car to drive in these conditions, Martin.
I think tricky car to drive in any conditions. A little bit under-tired, a little bit underpowered, but the real problem is that everybody else has got what you've got. And if you miss your guess a little bit with the setup, then they've got what you've got and a little advantage. And it's very hard to battle back against that. And when qualifying is so short and practice is so short, unless you've really got the car under you that you need for a race track that you may not have done a lot of time on, then you can end up talking yourself into setups you don't need to be trying.
So we are going to go now to an interview with Tom, who is a racer for Alpine. We saw him in the wars a bit there. Tom, how have you found the Alpine Esports Series?
It was amazing. Literally, I saved the best for last. It was absolutely insane. Especially the last lap. I was battling with Cartwright. Honestly, from now on, we are nemesis. I don't know if we're going to meet again at some point, but that was so much fun. It was absolutely so enjoyable. I will do it again happily. Honestly, it was absolutely awesome.
But the good news is they've just introduced 10 more races tonight, so stay with
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, sign me up.
It's Pack racing at its finest, Tom. There's never a moment where in 25 minutes where you even get to breathe, is there?
No, literally, I had at the end my eyes were watered. I didn't even blink. Everybody always says, "Yo, you got to blink in between," but I did not. I have to go and take some classes for that because I think I'm gonna have to put some water in my eyes in the end because. Because yeah, absolutely insane. Yeah, I had no breather. I was talking to my chat in the meantime as well. I was live streaming, but literally in the last couple of laps, I could not say anything. I was literally just focused as I could, as focused as I could. It was insane. It was so much fun.
I feel sorry for the TV director who's had to keep up with all of the battles. It's been that throughout the field. You are, of course, an Alpine Esports team ambassador and driver. Why do you think this Alpine A110 GT4 is so good at producing this kind of, well, frankly, mad racing?
It's a very playful car. The car literally is a big kart, right? It literally drifts through every corner. You gotta actually like fight with the car. And for example, compared to those GT3 cars, those are way more planted. But this is like you actually like if you give a little bit too much input, you already are drifting. So yeah, it's all about keeping it in a straight line and yeah, just trying to gather as much speed through the corners. And if you can do that, then you can be at the front like Jardier in this race. I could not do it this time around, but next time I'll be there, I promise.
Well, Tom,
thank you very much.
It's put a big smile on your face and on ours too as well. So thanks for the entertainment.
For sure. Thank you, guys.
You know, that's sort of what you expect everybody looks like. You know, win, lose or draw. And that's you know, the road tester reviews, the people who've driven the car, who own the car, buy it because it's not the most powerful or the widest or the lowest or the fastest or that, but because it's fun. And that's what you want in a sports car. You want fun. You want to feel like you're making a difference. And clearly that's what this GT4 car does as well for its drivers.
Well, I must admit, I found myself looking on Auto Trader one too many times at the A110. It's a very, very tempting machine. And if it produces racing like that, and if Tom is anything to go by, I think the last 25 minutes have been ridiculously good fun for everyone involved. It's certainly been fun to commentate on, Martin.
It has lots of smiles per mile just watching, so that's good news indeed, and actually a lot more affordable than the original A10 Berlinette as well. You just aren't going to be able to get one of those. I love no money. So entertaining stuff, and we need final championship standings. I think have probably shuffled quite a lot, haven't they, from where we were an hour and a half ago?
Well, that's part of what comes part and parcel with a 6 race championship, of course. No drop rounds, certainly no room for drop rounds in this kind of format. But we've had short races, we've had short fighty battles, and we've had a short championship, and it's kept everything really engaged and thrilling. Maybe 24 races a season might be too many.
Well, you sort of can sometimes lose what the essence of it is, and the essence of this is it's short, sharp and highly entertaining. And you're right, you know, if they get too dialed in, perhaps they're just going to end up where everybody, I mean, look at all our drivers here, apart from Gregor Schill there in the middle, they've all got a big smile on their face. I think Gregor is as close as he could possibly be to taking the title, but the first weekend was the one that really hurt him. And Jardier in the top left, I think if he was last with 2 drive-throughs, he'd probably be smiling just as much.
Absolutely, that is just the standard issue Jardier face. Always happy all the time. Gregor Schill does look disappointed there. He's a real competitor. He's a really serious esports guy. You know, he lives for this stuff, and he's not going to be happy coming away from today after that incident. You know, he was doing everything he could to stay in contention, but realistically the thing that will upset him the most is that he wasn't quick enough today to beat Jardier.
I think that's it. You know, that incident didn't cost him the championship. Jardier's speed costs Gregor the championship, and Gregor needed to be ahead of him and knew he needed to be ahead of him and couldn't figure out how to be ahead of him. He did in the first race, but not in the second. And we did say between the 2 races, you know, Jardier now knows how his car handles in turbulent air. Gregor knows how his handles in clear air. don't be misled into making big setup changes that might take you too far away from the sweet spot of the car. And it's entirely possible that might have happened. It's possible that Jardier had the quicker car all the way through, but just didn't have enough room to exploit it.
But it's interesting that Gregor mentioned that before the sprint race, he made a quick setup change, which caused him to have a bit of oversteer. And we did see some snap oversteer throughout through the sort of early part of Beausset, which when you gather it up in these cars, and particularly in ACC, it can be quite easy to accidentally introduce understeer as well. So you end up with this sort of almost four-wheel sliding effect, which really isn't good for lap time. So whether he corrected that from the first race is not for me to judge, but he certainly didn't have the pace in the end to go and take on Jardier.
Yeah, and for Jardier, he won it the way he would like to. He qualified the car on pole position when everybody else had a little bit more of a breathing time in qualifying than just bang one lap, and if traffic falls your way, you're good, and if it doesn't, you're not. So Jardier did what he needed to do, and starting from pole position, he gave himself the very best chance to go out and win the championship, and then he ran away. He made sure he controlled the start. He made sure he wasn't phased when he was being pushed really hard by a driver who had picked up a penalty. That would be easy to do. It's not a light-hearted situation. You're trying to win the championship. Pretty much you've got to win the race. And then there's a guy who's a loose cannon on deck rolling around behind you. It would be very easy just to get distracted by that. He wasn't, and he drove a very quick, mature race and stayed out away from everybody else. And that's the best way, as any motorcycle racer will tell you, or motorcyclist will tell you, to avoid trouble, is to be away from other vehicles. Conterberge and Isaac Gillison, we're seeing this in replay. This was a battle that just kind of went on and on and on for 25 minutes. Not always just the two of them, but with another cast of supporting actors as well. And whatever else, I'm not quite sure where Isaac Gillison would have finished in the overall rankings. I think probably if he hadn't been an AM and he'd been a pro, he would have been top 5 somewhere.
I think he would have been right on the edges of the top 5, as you say. It was very interesting watching these two battle throughout. And it was this corner here, scene that just really brought everyone else into the fold every single time, as we're likely about to see here. Time after time, they went through their side-by-side, costing each of them just a little bit of momentum. The car on the inside obviously has to back out, so it doesn't go into the car on the outside. The car on the outside is not going to be able to get to the apex just enough to bring whoever was in the third part of that battle right in behind. I think we see Gillison make contact a little bit here with Dimitrov, right back from, that wasn't with Dimitrov, it was with Jean Blanc, from about the midpoint of the race. It feels like a long time ago now. We've gone for 2 or 3 laps worth of time without cars overtaking each other going into senior. So time has distorted somewhat. But it's beautiful watching these cars turn in, move around. You can see the front end grip, the back end just step out slightly on turn, you can view the rotation beautifully as they go across the apex so nicely in these super slow-mo shots.
And what was interesting to me about Gillison is that he was pick a line, any line. Every lap, he was using a different line into and through senior, and as a result, coming through the middle of everybody who was in front of him. He carried such speed out of senior down towards the Beausset that quite often he couldn't handle it because he was actually going too quick. Well, there's your battle for second place. Bonjour and Schill behind the race leader. Lap 9. It's about getting on for the 2/3 distance mark. And that's the gap back to 4th place that Corentin Berge was always contemplating. Not quite half the length of the Mistral, but when you're on a straight that long and you're looking at 2 cars as these were, look how far back Berge is. He's coming out of senior. They're already into Beausset. So all that way, they're shimmering in the heat haze. He's got no idea visually whether he's closing or not. And that's quite tough, just to know that you're a long way back and you've still somehow got to get to them. And again, looking here at our champion in the AM class, Isaac Gillison. He does like inventing overtaking maneuvers. Oh, you can't get
Yeah,
down
he was certainly.
there. You can.
He was certainly one of the more inventive drivers out there this afternoon. As you said, just so many different lines through Beausset and quite late braking as well. As we're seeing a little bit of contact there was that between Jean Blanc again in the 7 car and is it Giffey in the number 2?
Yeah,
yes, it
that
is.
was Giffey just making a little contact there. Post-race penalty coming to
Jean Blanc, the number 7.
We haven't yet seen the incident why. However, it has dropped him out of the points, which means we should have final points very soon. This is what you expect from similar cars. Look at this. You could throw a pocket handkerchief over them and you'd get them all. There is no spare tarmac there as that 5-car train comes, well, everywhere, down the straight, through the chicane, into the first corner, into the last corner, out of senior. And the classic slipstreaming rule is don't be in front on the last lap, because then you're just towing everybody else to go straight by you. And Vanko Dimitrov, unfortunately, ended up slipping a little bit further down the order than he would have liked. He was leading that 5-car train on lap 10. And by the end of it, he was at the back of it.
Yeah, eventful races for Dimitrov throughout. As the case with Jean Blanc as well, who sadly picked up that penalty referenced earlier. Beautiful watching these cars in the sunset. Oh, sorry, the rising sun in ACC. Absolutely stunning stuff. Nice bit of a treat while we wait for the final standings, just to confirm our championship winners and ultimately not so much winners, Martin.
Yeah. Well, again, with only points going to 8 drivers in Pro and Am, an awful lot of the Pro drivers losing out. Vanko Dimitrov, well, he raced hard, didn't he? He does not give up in any way, shape or form. Here having a go at Fabien Petit, but again, 56, Isaac Gillison, going around the outside, looking for something else. Now, outside into Beausset means that you've always got a long way to go round, but it can work. And then as Dimitrov made a mistake, got himself up on the curbs, lost ground, and we thought maybe that might have been a server or a connection glitch. Either way, they went by him, and that kind of left him with more work to do.
Yeah, it certainly looked like the first part of that was caused by something unrelated to the driver, but then he found himself on the wrong side of the curb, rejoining the track at a rather oblique angle to the reverse face of the curb, which is never something you really want to do, Martin.
Tend not to be, especially when you're in that close a group as well, because any moment you have tends to be multifaceted.
One of the benefits of having all this space at Paul Ricard is we didn't see too many incidents like that turn into chain reactions, thankfully. And while we did have a little bit of door banging, most of it seemed pretty friendly to me across the board. As friendly as door banging can be, of course.
Yeah, the good thing about Paul Ricard is that it has good sight lines through most of the corners, and so there is not only room to run off, but you've actually got room of what's happening, and so or view of what's happening. So, yeah, you don't end up with, when you're at Spa, as you come over, crest the brow and Rédillon, suddenly the road's full of cars. That tends to happen much less here. Mind you can still pick up a fair amount of marbles on your tyres if you go way over the white line down the straight there.
Yeah, and no penalties for cutting across the pit lane exit, which certainly a case in real life here at Paul Ricard, as you got the very short run back onto the track right before turn 1.
So this is Bonjour and Gregor Schiel. Again, the battle for second place behind the runaway leader. And confirmation then of the championship standings, the series standings. It is Jardier, Jaroslav Honzik, who claims victory. The Czech driver 1 single point ahead of Frenchman Corentin Berge, who ended up in 3rd place. And as we had guessed, that was not enough. Florian Bonjour, 3rd in the standings with 37 points ahead of Gregor Schiel. And Schiel might have been in 3rd place had it not been for that incident. Fabien Jean Blanc in 5th and 6th ahead of Vanko Dimitrov and Victor Nicolai, with Alex Doricot making a run into the points on the final race weekend. And the final race, Jan Niklas Erbrich moving himself equal on points. but in 10th place in the overall standings. For our AMs, as we said, Isak Gillison uncatchable here in Paul Ricard, and went on to add another 2 maximum scores. Love 46 ahead of Tom. Plenty of action for our AMs, our friends of Alpine. And if they were friends of Alpine before, they're probably very much more intimate friends of Alpine now than they were before. We heard Thea saying that she's never really driven the car before getting into this series, but really loving it. And she was only 2 points off a 3-way tie for the runner-up spot as well. So she had a pretty decent season in the cars.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Martin, trading paint is a very friendly activity, and we saw plenty of that, both our AMs and pros today. What a series. What a wonderful event to be a part of. It's had a slightly different format to a lot of esports series that we've seen in the past, or that I've been involved with, certainly with these short and sharp races, and this short championship seasons made everything really action-packed. I can barely remember what happened 10 minutes ago, let alone 2 weeks ago when we had round 1. Things have come thick and fast. There's been action, there's been drama, and there's been a famous Czech right at the top of the field in our pro category.
Yeah, absolutely has. And whatever he was telling his audience when he was busy racing, we weren't privy to, but I'm sure they thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not for nothing that he is so well known. And as you say, multiple race victories as well as multiple podium finishes are definitely what it was all about for Jardier. So he ends up with our overall victory in the first Alpine Esports Series. And we are joined now by Jardier. Congratulations. What a fun season you've had in these cars.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Martin. Thank you so much, everybody.
Well, listen, you know, from your T-shirt, we know that you're a massive racing fan as well as a massive racer. What is the key thing about these cars for you? Why have you enjoyed racing them so much?
I absolutely love the Alpine because it's so hard to drive. I think you could see it in all the races that it was really important to stay out of the trouble, obviously. But it was fight with the car all the time because the car was like very oversteery, very deadly in some of the places. And I really enjoyed that. I really like oversteery cars. So this was like a car made for me today.
You sent me a message after race 2 in Monza, or maybe it was after Spa, telling me that I jinxed you after I sent you a message of congratulations after your win early on. I will be accepting your apologies now because you've taken a commanding victory at the end, although it was very, very close. Only 1 point in it at the end, Jardier. Was that as exciting for you as it was for us?
I'm so sorry, Chris. I will never doubt you again. Yeah, I was like, I don't know about you guys for past 15 minutes. I was just looking at the results, calculating, and just waiting, and I didn't want to celebrate or anything like that because the last race, I was just calculating and I was just trying to do like a flawless race without any mistakes and just hope for no drama in the back, which actually happened, you know. So it gave me a lot of anxiety for the past 20 minutes.
Well, Jardier, you were doing everything you could. You were on pole, you led the race, you drove away, you ignored the pressure from behind. But you're right, it could have gone, if that battle for second, if both cars had failed to finish, then suddenly Corentin nearly found the championship in his lap. So it's not always what you do, it's what happens to other people as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I did like 2 huge mistakes in both rounds of the Spa. So I put myself in like a very, very difficult situation in Paul Ricard, and I knew what I have to do. And in the first race, I was just taking it really, really careful. I don't want to risk too much in a fight with the Gregor. And I just took the points, and then in the next race, like I had a really good 3 laps in the qualification. Like all 3 of them were like in the top 3, and got a pole position. And luckily, I got a good start. And then I was just hoping that it's not gonna go too bad between Gilles and Bonjour. And luckily they were fighting just a little bit until the end. So I got like a nice gap, and I was just controlling the gap, and I was just calculating. I was just looking more in the mirrors than in front in the last 3 laps.
It was very interesting. Sorry, Martin. I was just going to say it was very interesting watching the comparison between your camera and Gregor's camera as you were battling it out throughout that first race, while you were pressuring him, running down behind him within a tenth or two of a second every lap. Gregor looked incredibly focused, incredibly tense. It looked like his entire being was being projected into the screen in front of him. Whereas when the camera went on to you, Jardier, you seem to be having the time of your life, as you always do.
Well, that's what I try, right? Like that's my job, and I love racing in real life. I love the sim racing as well, you know. So everything puts a smile on my face, especially when we are in a second position fighting for P1. I can't wish for anything better at the moment.
Any day you're racing a car is a good day, right? It's a day you're having fun.
Exactly.
And that is, of course, your prize. You get to go and drive an Alpine GT4 car.
Well, looking forward. Absolutely looking forward. I wonder if it's such a beast as in a game.
Yeah, I wonder if, so often sim racers and real life racers don't have the same setup. You can't treat the curbs the same. It's going to be interesting to hear the comparison afterwards to what surprised you most about the real GT4 compared to the one that you've just been racing. I guess you can't take the dog in with you as well, like you can when you're racing here.
Well, hopefully our dog will stay in a hotel, because we want to have a good time with my girlfriend in France again. So yeah, not going on the circuit, definitely, but hopefully our dog will have a good time as well.
Well, Jardier, listen, congratulations. A fantastic race season. Short, but very quick and thoroughly entertaining. A worthy champion. Well done indeed.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Martin and Chris. And Alpine, obviously, for amazing championship.
Yes, absolutely. Indeed to them. And Chris, the fun element is hard to overstress. Whether you're racing a real car or whether you're racing on sim racing. I spoke to World Touring Car Champion Jan Erleche a couple of days ago in the lead up to next weekend when we start real World Touring Cars again. And I said, testing, how's it been going? He said, it's fantastic. He said, any day at a racetrack is better than any other day you spend anywhere else. And I think Jardier absolutely exudes that. Any day he's racing anything, he's a happy bunny, isn't he?
Yeah, I hate to use the terminology, but he is a wonderful ambassador for our sport. He's always incredibly positive, energetic, passionate. And again, that's a bit of a throwaway word, really, isn't it? But he is passionate. He lives for this, and is starting to reap the rewards for that passion in the time that he's poured into this. And he had a drive win, a Lamborghini GT3 last year for winning one of the Lamborghini series. He's getting a chance in the Alpine GT4 this year. So real world racing opportunities are starting to crop up for the man, for the effort, the passion, the blood, the sweat and the tears that he's put into his sport. And it's lovely to see.
It is lovely to see, and his social media following will just grow and grow and grow, because clearly, whether he's speaking in Czech or English, he is a man who is well worth watching. He's good entertainment, and that's exactly what you want. It's what you want from your racing drivers. It's what you want from all your sportsmen and women. And I think an awful lot of people in this field have probably had a really, really fun time. Whether the results have been quite what they'd hoped for, who knows? But I think if they came in here hoping to have a fun race series, I think pretty much most of them have gone away thinking, yeah, that was a fun race series.
Yeah, it's like joining a little pickup karting league, really, almost, isn't it? Short, sharp, fun, and probably come out with a few bruises as well.
Five-a-side football down the local park. It's all of that, isn't it? And you're absolutely right. And a lot of it will be racing with familiar faces and against familiar names in unfamiliar machinery. So I think hats off. It was a 1-point victory in the end, but I think Jardier was as deserving a champion as you're going to see in anything today.
Yep. As we start to bring the stream to a close, I'd like to thank everyone for watching on YouTube and Twitch, of course. We'd like to thank all of our partners and sponsors for the event. And any final thoughts, Martin?
Well, again, all the best to Paul and his family. He unfortunately couldn't do the final couple of races, so it's been a real joy to be asked to drop in, because, again, with no prior knowledge, I was expecting to be trying hard to identify cars, but in the end, It's just been a great, entertaining couple of races. So, yeah, just delighted to be able to do it. Really good fun.
Well, I've had probably the most fun 6 races I've commentated on in my short sim racing commentary career. Things have been pretty action-packed. I think that's underselling it massively. So I guess all that's left to say, guys, is that thank you so much for watching. Tune in again, hopefully next year when we'll be doing some more Alpine Esports, and enjoy the rest of your day.